What is up, everyone? What is up? It is Monday. Nobody's happy about it, especially Garfield. You know, it's the Mondays. Whatever. What's everyone up to? It's been an interesting weekend. I should be starting the new job in a couple of weeks, but it's that weird process right now of leaving one job, waiting for HR to clear the other. Everything should be fine. I mean, my background's clear, and all they gotta do is check, prior jobs. They've actually been reaching out to my prior employers, getting verifications on everything, so it's been interesting. 10 years of background check. That is a little bit insane. But yeah, I should be cleared. They say it takes 2 to 3 weeks, so I think everything will work out. But yeah, it's that weird, awkward position. I also realized, I thought, for some reason, I was like, yeah, I'm just going from one cybersecurity engineer role to another. No, I'm officially going to become a senior cybersecurity engineer with this role. So, yeah, it's kind of interesting. I was doing some thinking about my project, and now he's... What project? Sorry, I have had to review so many different projects. No offense to you, it's just, I'm sure if you remind me of which one it is, I'll, remember off the top of my head. The Big Brother one. Which one? I vaguely remember some. I'm not trying to be, rude or anything. It's that I've literally had to look at dozens of GitHubs. Hey, thank you for the sub there, Prisms. I do not know why, my alerts are not going off. It is the strangest thing. I don't know what's going on with that. Huh. I don't know. I'm gonna have to figure out what the hell is going on with everything. I don't know. It's weird. My alerts for Twitch and everything have been kind of weird for a while. What's up, VTuber? My AI is having a midlife crisis. What's my AI doing now? Oh, I just looked at what it generated off of that. Oh, that's funny. I put in the chat, are we AI or are we dancers? And, it's like seriously questioning the hype around AI tonight. Yeah, that's kind of funny. I don't know what's up with the YouTube alert, though. It looks like the Twitch and the Kick one went off, but not the YouTube one. I think what's happening is it's probably fighting with itself, because it has to do a grading system. For part of my guardrails. Docker log stream daemon. So, let me see. Streams active, Twitch, Kick, but no YouTube. Huh. Interesting. Don't know why it didn't do that. Interesting. Yeah, I'm looking at the logs right now. I'm gonna have to check into why that is later on. May need a reset, but yeah. My TikTok is looping the same 3 seconds over and over again, and probably TikTok server's messing up again on my end. Yeah, TikTok's been kind of weird because they've been moving more stuff to be US focused, which ironically is going against the reasons why we actually used it in the first place, which was to basically get a little bit more awareness of what was happening in the world. Okay. Interesting. I don't know why. Is it maybe reset session? Yeah, I don't know what is up with the Twitch API or something lately. Well, no, I'm using the Twitch API for that. But basically, it's not alerting me to when I'm having events trigger and everything. Because normally there's supposed to be an alert that goes off. I'm gonna check Stream Element, see what's going on there. But this is also why I've been, like, moving more and more to making my own tools. Because I'm finding when I rely on other vendors, things are breaking. You bought a 5080 the other day? Yeah, GPUs have gotten expensive. My 5070 Ti is going for about the price of the 5080s that I was looking at. It's crazy. Let me try reloading the overlay. Okay, we're gonna reload that. Huh. That's weird. This connection protection. VOD. That's weird. I don't know why my Twitch stuff decided to go derpy all of a sudden. Remember when TikTok was Musical.ly? Early TikTok is nothing like how it was in 2020, never mind 2026. Yeah, that's a big reason that's why I stopped using a lot of it. It's just, it doesn't give me the joy as it used to be, whereas I was learning a lot of interesting things and cultures and all that, and now I just get a bunch of bullshit fed to me. So I put content on TikTok, but my TikTok primarily, my content has moved to YouTube, and then TikTok gets the pieces afterwards. Yeah, it's weird. Let me see. The Big Brother. Opinion on OpenClaw. I think people are, getting a little bit too heavy into AI without thinking about the consequences. Oh yeah, this tool, the OSINT tool. Yeah, I meant to put a check back in on that later. It's good that it's blowing up. Happy for you, bud. Oh, it looks like you're missing some dependencies according to an issue. But yeah, I do need to look into why, my Twitch alerts are not going off. That is weird. I'm trying to figure out why that is the case. Alright, anyway, I'll have that look into it while I'm doing this. I'm using Wireshark. What should I look out for? That's a bit of a wide answer there. Wireshark is a tool that you can use for a lot of different things. You can use it for actively sniffing out traffic. You can do it when you're mirroring a port. Doesn't display it. Open Stream Elements and let's see the activity feed. Yes, the famous, is that pew pew or is that fireworks? This just occurred. Oh, yeah, that'll happen all the time. My Wireshark is almost exclusively used for forensic analysis, not live packets. I've only used it here and there, mostly for troubleshooting. Not really as much analysis, just to make sure things are, you know, going right. Disconnect and reconnect Twitch. Okay, so let's see. Twitch. Settings. I'm trying to see if there's any connections here. Because, I mean, this has been going on for a while, that it's been breaking. Okay, so Stream Elements was not authorized. Interesting. Okay. I don't know why. Twitch settings. Connections. Okay, I may need to... Huh. There's a lot of connections in here. I'll see if I can reconnect all of this. Pardon me while I'm doing some troubleshooting. Stream. I'm just killing all the connections to Twitch. Ew, Streamlabs is connected. Alright, that should be just about everything. Oh, they have an option to connect TikTok and stuff. Interesting. But yeah, OpenClaw, I think we talked about this yesterday, where I think people are using agentic AI a little bit too much and not questioning just because there's a lot of issues around just because we can, should we really do this? Okay, so streaming tools. Okay, so fix streamer bot, log out, forget, restart streamer bot. Alright, so now I want to see if we're going to get this connected. It's got Windows 11 Pro. Oh, I met the founder of OpenClaw before it blew up. He's heavily into the London tech community and did an office demo at a society type thing community. Now he's in OpenAI, the big league's called. I mean, good for him. The problem isn't so much the technology that I have with it. It's the users of it. Because just like anything, people are not actually thinking about, should we do these things? Could we do these things? Well, I mean, they're definitely thinking about, could we do these things? But not, should we do these things? Okay. Alright, so I'm gonna try logging out and logging back in. Okay, so we're gonna reauthorize that. Okay, that should fix that. And then we're going to forget this account, log back in, okay, and then hopefully so I'm gonna close StreamerBot, restart that. Welcome to a tech stream, where it's not a tech stream unless we have tech issues. YC just be funding anything these days. Have you seen a YC startup got funded which just implements OpenClaw into enterprises? Yeah, it's getting a little bit crazy that they're doing all this stuff without actually doing their due diligence on a lot of different things. And then they overlook a lot of legitimate, great ideas. I think we're overhyping AI. It's the big buzzword thing, and it's very similar to how, what's the word? We were doing all the blockchain stuff years ago. Everyone was crazy about blockchain, and in many cases they still are. It's insane. Test print is working for that. So I wanna see. I don't know if anyone wants to send some bits or something so that I can actually test this out, because I just reconnected everything to stream Twitch and all that. Blockchain's still a buzz in hackathons. Yeah, it absolutely still is a buzzword. I saw it when I was at, Web Summit. When I was at Web Summit, about 2 years ago. Yeah. Oh, Jessica, I saw Harvey Dancers. Hey! Thank you for the 100 biddies. So we fixed it with the old-fashioned unplug it and plug it back in. So note to self: if printer no worky and alerts no worky, disconnect everything on Twitch and reconnect it. I found a lot of stale connections when it was happening. All right. It's not a tech stream unless we, well, yeah, please hold for technical support. I'm kind of disappointed that you didn't at least, do it in an Indian accent. It would have been more authentic there, chat. No offense to any Indians out there, but come on, you know the joke. Oh yeah, Jessica, you ran off while, before I got to say bye to you at the last, local meetup. But yeah, as always, it was great hanging out. You got to meet Yitz. Every day is a good day to kill Nazis. I mean, yes. I don't know what context brought that up, but I mean, I will not dispute that argument. Dennis Ritchie stuff. Day 2 of my PC broken. How did your PC break? I'm hoping that I can, do a bit more, I can put a little bit more into the LLC as things go on with the new job once I pay down some bills, because if so, I'm probably going to send you out some hardware just of, no promises. No, I'm just telling you that it's been on my mind to at least send you some hardware to properly work. Just seeing if anyone disagrees. Well, if anyone disagrees with that statement that, it's always a good day to kill Yahtzees, then you can leave the channel, because one of my favorite games is Wolfenstein. and the old-fashioned Call of Duty games. I mean, that's just historical justice. You'll get your thing sent here by April-ish. Oof. Yeah. Oh yeah, that reminds me, I do have to send you some money when I have a moment. Because it is, you get paid for clipping my videos, and I'll have a bunch of videos to clip for you. I don't know how you'll be able to operate do that if you don't have a computer, but we'll figure it out. I don't have a good enough computer to really send you the problem that isn't in use. I also picked a hornet's nest at work, so I'll have more 8:30s on Friday for the near future. See, congratulations! You just played yourself. Oh, I didn't tell you the good news about the, job. So, I was, like, thinking, oh, yeah, I'm just getting another cybersecurity engineer job. They're, you know, paying me more money. I re-looked at the email because I was trying to see when HR had the timeline set up because I haven't heard anything back. They said it would take 2 to 3 weeks for the background check and all that. It's pretty intensive. But no, I'm not a cybersecurity engineer. I'm a senior cybersecurity engineer. But I find it interesting that in my entire career, I have never been given a promotion. I've always had to go out and give myself a promotion. Which annoys me because that shows me I'm capable of doing the work. They see that I'm doing all these things, but I'm not awarded for it. And then they wonder why people leave. Because let me put it this way. The job that I'm leaving didn't want to give me a raise, didn't want to give me a bonus, was paying me below the market. And, you know, was saying that I'm below expectations, even though I'm the only one on the team doing Python, infrastructure as code, specifically to my team of 4 people. I was the one that was handling all of that. And then now I'm having to hand off and train a bunch of people on the things that I was doing. And they're like, well, why didn't you automate these metrics? And I'm like, well, everyone kept asking me for enhancements and features, so I wanted to get the local version ironed out with this almost 10,000 lines of Python code in different modules and everything before I actually wanted to lambdaize it and get it working with APIs. So I at least, you know, shared with one of my buddies there that is an architect. I'm like, this is where I was planning to go with it. I have notes for everything. There's documentation. And he was pretty happy with it. He's like, yeah, you did really get this prepped. And I'm like, because there's JSON databases for all the past reports. So every time it runs a report, it will add another JSON file. So that way it can refer to it for future trend analysis reports. So you don't have to keep the full report. And then it would look at a YAML configuration of all the different things there. And I basically was formatting it so that eventually you can get the API tied in. I just hadn't gone around to that point yet. And yeah. Oh, and there's also a lot of funny Easter eggs in there. At one of the top of the files, I commented out, look to the bottom of this file to understand recursion. And then at the bottom of the file, it says, look to the top of this file to understand recursion. There is, like, various programmer-related dad jokes hidden away in there. There is, little comments and shout-outs to different people that work there. It'll be funny when they go through my code later on. All the little things that they see in there. There's a couple sections that say, in order to quantify the man hours wasted and the time that you've wasted on trying to optimize or enhance this project, please iterate the number below by the number of attempts and hours that you have failed. My dear, she's stuck in it. Wouldn't that just cause an infinite loop? Recursion should be repetition with a naturally occurring exit condition. Well, it's a joke. It's a comment at the top. Just basically having a programmer look at it, read the top, and then they're going to have to look to the bottom, and then see the bottom points back to the top. And no, recursion doesn't have an exit loop. Examples being GNU. GNU's not Unix. It's a recursive hack. Or what was it? You got Wine. Wine is not an emulator. So literally, it's recursion back into itself. Same with GNU. That's recursion. 1 million lines of BASIC. What's GNU with you? Yeah, funny. Alright. So we got some other videos to catch up on. Why did somebody ping me? Oh, yeah, that. Okay. I'm eventually gonna sit down and focus on a little bit more of my projects. I've got AI staged for my Penguin Overlord Discord bot, and I know a lot of people are worried about what's happening with Discord right now in terms of the ID verification stuff. If you're that worried about it, there is always going to be a Matrix server. I pay out of my own pocket for that hosting. So the links are in bio for that. If you do want to go to the Matrix server, you will have to make your own account and or Matrix server to use Matrix, but it's a decentralized federated system that you can self-host your own server and connect to everyone through that way. Even Louis Rossman, he doesn't have a Discord, from my understanding. He just has a Matrix server, because I'm in that server. I'm not an active contributor there, but I watch it. Make the resume AI loop. There's always a way out, but it involves breaking the physical hardware. Well, we call that a hard reset. A hammer. Should I apply for this COBOL job? Offering $30 an hour for $30 an hour? For COBOL? They're lowballing you, man. Like, my understanding is COBOL is paying top dollar because barely anyone is able to do it anymore. I ran into a dude that was doing COBOL that was getting paid $200K. And not even in an expensive city. Yeah, $30 is lowball. Even Jessica's agreeing. So no, don't do COBOL for just $30 an hour. Like, to give you an idea of how low $30 an hour is, that's less than my hourly rate before senior. So $30 an hour to salary equates to $62,400 per year. That's not a lot of money. Even 150 is kind of lowballing. They are predatory to entry-level devs with that behavior. Absolutely, and that's why I tell a lot of devs, you need to actually go and get your GitHub built out, get a lot of your fundamental skills, and it doesn't hurt to round yourself out with a few certs that are in the IT field. And, I mean, yeah, you can go after CCSP after you've been in there for 5 years. That might be somewhat relevant, but it wouldn't hurt to have some basic IT certs like Network Plus, maybe Security Plus, just to at least show that you understand basic infrastructure as a dev. Your grad salary is $63K? Dude, I haven't been paid $63K or less than that since I was working MSP when I was starting out my professional career. So the last time I did that was probably 2020-ish. Because after I left that job and I started realizing my value, now I didn't really want to leave because I liked the people that I worked with, but eventually I realized I have to look out for number one. And that's why this job, I was like, hey, I love the people I work with, but I got to move on and you know, advocate for myself. Because they were not, I was not even cracking 100K. Like, I am just shy of 100K where I currently work, but this will be my last week. And the new job's paying me 40K more. A little bit more than 40K more. And, yeah, so I went from when I joined at MSP at 36K, left making 50K, give or take, and then I left that job for one that was paying me 90K. The next job after that, because I got let go from it, there's a whole thing with gotta, work happened, COVID, businesses had churn. It is what it is. But I got laid off with a severance, and then I moved on from 90K to about 96. I think I started at the top end of the last job, the pay spectrum they had, and then I at least was getting raises, even though they were just like barely below inflation, which is part of the reason why I left. We have 40K uni debt too, but it's all Great British pounds. Yeah, so you got to pay a lot more for that. My student loan debt when I graduate, WGU, and mind you, I already have like an associate's degree prior to this, lumped into that. I will be owing, if I finish it this semester, about 13K, give or take, 14K, give or take. If I finish it towards the end of the year into the second semester, it'll be closer to 19K in US dollars. Do you hope to become manager one way or stay senior? No, I do not want to be a manager. Fuck that. I want to remain technical. My goal is architecture. So security architecture is my ultimate goal. At most, with architecture, I would maybe have project management somewhat roped into that, but not like a full-on project manager. So yeah, I want to, the next jump from senior cybersecurity engineer, from my understanding, is architecture. Though in some companies you may have a jump to another thing in between, although they're changing the roles now, so it's like what you have staff engineer and then principal engineer right above senior. Be very careful with anything calling you PM. Oh, absolutely. I do not want to take PM. I am not managing Jira. I am putting my Jira shit in and letting the PM handle that. What about a tech lead instead of manager? I know they're basically the same, but the tech leads will stay a lot more technical and just stay on more architecture. Well, yeah, tech lead, but ultimately, architecture is my goal. And lead is below architecture. Actually, you're not on the PM side. F it. Yeah, F that. F that. Is help desk to product manager to GRC analyst a crazy shift? That is a weird shift. Because the normal progression, at the very least, in that order, would be help desk, GRC analyst, then project/product manager. That's the order that it should go in, from my understanding. I'm a software engineer. I don't understand the cybersecurity world too much. Sorry. Nothing to apologize for. You don't know what you don't know. It's the same way as I probably don't know the dev side of things. Made 40 doing help desk, 30 an hour is wild. Yeah. I made less than that at an MSP, but it was a small company. So you had like 5 people in the company, not including the owner and accounting. Like 5 of us techs. So I get like paying a little less. Funny, I said manager, I guess. Yeah, it is manager. Yeah. Gov is weird, man. Yeah, government is weird. Oh, so if you're working for the government, yeah, their shit makes no sense. Like, they straight up want you to get stupid degrees and certs for things that don't necessarily make sense. Like, because I don't have a bachelor's degrees, I've been excluded from a lot of government contractors. I've learned that flat out. That's why I've been rejected from so many jobs, is I don't have a bachelor's degree to let me into the more senior positions. That's the only reason I'm getting it. I will tell you straight up, and I will have a YouTube video going into this. You don't learn shit in school. I have gone for my associate's degree at a sit-in college. Didn't learn shit that I didn't already know in the field, because at that point I was already working in the field several years. I didn't learn anything new going to WGU so far. No hate to WGU, that I haven't learned in the field already. I think WGU has a great curriculum for people that actually are working in the field and are just trying to get that checkbox. I think it's great for that, especially for people that are busy and need to have their own schedule to work around. Like, you have kids, you already have a full-time job that won't let you get away from, you know, sitting in a class, and you can expedite things in the way that you see appropriate. Because I'm knocking out one class per week. There are very few colleges I knew of that would have let me speed up. You've been at university for 4 years so far, and nothing I have to use for my job I haven't really learned from university. Yeah, that's how it is. You're going to learn at most concepts that you can learn on your own. There's nothing that I've learned in college that I haven't already learned in the field. There may have been like a few things, like the AAA, which, you know, like there's like, let me put it this way. There are things I understood, but I didn't know the acronyms that they were using or the names they formally call it. Like, for example, for many years, I didn't understand what they were calling tabletop gaming for simulating situations in a company for checking out incidents to see, are you prepared for it, outcomes, lessons learned. We used to call that, my friends and I, wargaming. But it's the same thing, different name. There were so many different concepts that I'm learning that at most I'm like, oh, that's what they formally call it. So yeah, you really only learn to memorize and regurgitate. Yeah, absolutely. And that's the exact reason why I tell people, if you're going to school, and I see this all the time, even in my comment section. There's been a lot of people that like argued with me in TikTok comments that are like, well, I'm in college right now, and what they're saying, you know, what I'm learning is that you're wrong about this. And I'm like, buddy, you're in college. You're in school right now. When you work the field, you'll see that what I'm saying about a lot of these things, that doesn't matter what you're learning. There are a lot of people that have had to have the reality check. And I've seen this firsthand from a lot of people that come into the field. They're arrogant, they think they know everything, and then they finally get working in the field and they realize they don't know shit. Like, I honestly, I don't care how old you are. If you are fresh out of school, because I've seen people that are in their 30s fresh out of school. I've seen people that are just coming out of high school, or, you know, just out of school in their 20s. You don't know shit until you're in the field for a while, because that can radically be different. And that's the same not just for IT, it was the same for me as an electrician as well. When I was in vocational school, I learned a lot of concepts for. But a lot of the things that you would understand would change when you're in the field, because you get a clean lab to, you know, run wires through and wire up a light bulb, but then there's other situations where you have to learn how to bend the wire through some weird wall structure from the 1920s, or, you know, you're dealing with new codes that come about that you didn't learn about. 0 degree and 0 certs in state, local gov has worked for me so far. It'll work to a point in government, because eventually you're going to hit a wall with government work where you're not going to be able to progress any further just because you don't have the pieces of paper. I don't agree with that mentality. To make that very clear, I don't agree with that mentality. I think that you should be judged more on your merit rather than the pieces of paper you have. But I have seen a lot more people be successful that don't know shit because they have the right check boxes than I have seen brilliant people that don't have the checkboxes, that are actually more qualified in my mind. Packet tracer did me a lot of harm. Went to make a real network, suddenly I knew nothing. Yeah, like, don't get me wrong. It's an interesting idea conceptually, but that's why I tell people, build a pfSense firewall, read the pfSense manual, get yourself a managed switch, get yourself a actual access point. You're gonna learn way more with that. Because there's a lot of stuff that I deal with in networking and day-to-day in my job over the years that I've run circles around other people, or at least, even though I haven't gone deep professionally into networking as some network engineers have at the enterprise side, I can at least keep up with them in discussions. Whereas I've seen where my colleagues are like, I don't understand anything you're talking about. Like, a lot of the stuff that I'm doing with AI right now, there's none of this shit in the classroom. Agentic AI and knowing how to actually do context windows, different LLMs, and BMAD versus all these other, ideas around it, having LLMs talk to other LLMs, having them guardrails implemented, all that. None of that shit's in the classroom. But I was one of only 2 people in the entire cybersecurity department where I'm at that actually could talk to each other about this entire idea, that we would literally go back and forth in team meetings and then realize, oh, we're the only ones talking here. And I'd be like, either one of us would be like, you know what, we're going to continue this discussion outside this meeting, because we'd realize we're the only ones that actually know what we're talking about. Cisco loves to lobby the schools to use their stuff. Well, yeah. Cisco, I think, they're living on their reputation. That's all they're really living on at this point, because there's a lot of other platforms you can use these days. Like, there's Aruba, Palo Alto, Juniper, pfSense, Unify to an extent, all these different vendors to achieve a lot of the same goals. Unify, mostly from what I'm seeing, it's not that it's not in every business. It's that it tends to be in businesses that usually have some legacy infrastructure. Because once they buy into an ecosystem, it's very hard for an enterprise to leave that ecosystem. So that's the honest truth. Alright, let's see if we can get onto reviewing some content over here. So we got KDE Plasma's VR mode, looks very exciting. I'm not a VR person. I'm just gonna put that out there. I'm not a VR person. I have nothing against it. It's just not my cup of tea. If anything, I'm more a fan of augmented reality versus virtual reality. Because I can see there's way more applications for it. Okay, the audio is working there, so we can at least get that working. So let's see what Brody has to say. Brody, of course, is a YouTuber that we have been following for quite a while. He makes some pretty good videos. I don't necessarily always agree with him. And, of course, he is an Arch user. So, insert Arch user meme.
You may have heard that a VR mode, a virtual reality mode, was being worked on for KDE Plasma, or maybe you haven't, and that's why you're here. So I was waiting for some more stuff to happen in the thread before we talked about it, and there's been a bit of movement. So in case you're entirely out of the loop, a developer by the name of Stanislav Alexandrov opened this merge request, draft VR mode. Now, with Valve's Steam Frame being on the horizon any day now, who knows when it's gonna happen? I actually don't know anything. No one from Valve has reached out to me yet. Valve, you have my email.
Did you learn nothing from Sword Art Online or a lot of the isekai animes? I don't know. I'm just kind of worried about Full Dive VR.
Reach out to me. Anything that could be remotely related to the Steam Frame, to the Steam Machine, is going to get some attention.
You'll willingly
install. And because of that, this was added since the creation of the merge quest. I do not work for Valve. This is done in my free time.
I like
This
that
is
he
not
has to
Valve's
put
paid
that.
work, unlike, something like Fix, where now that people know that was actually paid for from the start, a lot of people assume that anything like this is, probably related to Valve in some way.
I think it's great that
And
people are
also,
disclosing that
least
stuff,
supposedly, dev kits are now being circulated around for the Steam.
Also, I just noticed he's also using Florp, which I've moved over to Florp. I like Florp. It's a nice browser. It's Firefox without all the bullshit. I don't speak for the brand or the company. Pretty much. Hashtag I don't speak for the brand or the company.
The Steam frame is very close by, so having this right here, very important to make sure people don't get a misunderstanding of what's actually going on. In here, we have a video demo. It's a pretty standard VR compositor sort of thing. You place your windows where you want to place them. Now, this is intended for actually working... Okay, this is an anime there, but this is generally intended for working with stuff.
Well, I mean, come on, we're almost all guilty of that. We'll have anime open. Like, I'm, almost at episode 1100 of One Piece right now. Yeah, I've been progressing really hard on that. We're almost caught up. But is this actual VR or is this AR? Like, I'm not entirely sure if that's just their, actual living situation with just a blurry picture, or if this is just what they're using. Yeah, that's AR. That's what I thought. Why would they? This is what also another thing that, really annoys me. I know it sounds, nitpicky, but people don't seem to understand the difference between AR and VR. I do, because I actually worked in that space in the medical field for a while, where we were seeing AR applications for dental surgeries and medical procedures and things like that. So imagine a doctor could, do an endoscopy or a surgery on the mouth, and they could actually see things go there. They could take an intraoral scan of a mouth, and as it's being scanned, they can see a full room-sized version of the teeth, and they can pop it open with their hand and manipulate it. I actually had my hands on one of the original Microsoft HoloLens kits back when they actually had physical wires attached to it as like a proper dev kit before they made it more wireless. I actually got to have my hands on and play with it and see how these would demo, just so that I could hand it to doctors and get their feedback. And then also I would give input on how intuitive a lot of these things would be from someone who doesn't have a medical standpoint of just, hey, can I manipulate this and do the thing that I'm going to do? Your old work got in trouble with our sock with HoloLens. Oh, how did that happen?
So it is all keyboard driven. If you want to interact with applications, you're not doing everything with your controllers, things like that. It's very much intended to be a virtual reality workspace as your, as a way to do things instead of doing things on a flat screen. It's supposed to give you more screen space than what you would have just working on a screen. That's kind of the whole point. So of course with
that kind of use case, I would actually, that's how I want to use AR. I want to be able to do the things I want to do. And let's think about it from the privacy aspect. Let's say you are in cybersecurity and security operations. A lot of security operations generally have that privacy screen, so you can't see what's going by. You're doing an investigation into an employee, like a what do you call them, a rogue employee, or, insider threat. You don't want people walking by and seeing what you're doing. You're looking at some potential issue. You're going through classifications of different documents. This could be a more private way to do things. And I think it would be a little bit more economical in a way, because when I go to work, I need several monitors. All right? You give them one of these, you can have, as you can see, you can have like 5 or 6, 7 monitors. VR, AR hates my eyes through right now. Though right now, I couldn't use it right now, like, that maybe for 2 hours. Yeah, there's definitely still improvements that have to be done in terms of the comfort for various eye issues and things like that. Like, I have a light sensitivity issue. That's why you notice I have everything in dark mode. I avoid a lot of blue lights. That's why if you notice, my key lighting over here is a little bit more red shifted. My entire house, the lights are red shifted. I have blue light filtering on my glasses. It's also partly why I switched the case color over here from blue to a little bit more yellow, but also it's to match the aesthetic of the cables. But yeah.
The whole Steam frame coming along, and with this being VR, Brad Lynch, otherwise known as Sadly as Bradley, Valve data scraper extraordinaire, VR fanatic extraordinaire, he obviously talked about it. And when he talked about it, this got quite a bit of attention, and not as much as something like the Steam frame or the Steam machine, but a lot of people, this is where they first heard about it. And someone replied, honestly, really cool, but what on earth was wrong with a white outline? Why does every single Linux UI project turn into green and blue colored fake bloom? It looks awful. And I think the work here is cool, but the green glow on the windows...
It reminds me of the Reddit mod. I was making fun of him with the highlight. Yeah.
Just don't. Just use a white outline. Use anything else. A white outline's gonna stand out a lot more on pretty much any background.
I don't like a white outline.
Hey, that's cool. It's customizable, but
I'd rather a black outline.
Just don't. Just stop.
White and blue tend to be a little bit too bright. In many cases, white more so than blue. So, that's the other thing is I think a lot of people who use Windows, there's a lot of people out there that don't even know that they can use dark mode. And then when they come over to my screen, they're like, how do you get everything to dark mode? Flips one button. Oh, how do you do it on your browser? Installs one extension. And by the way, I have thought, because you have to do a risk exception for when you install browser extensions. Ideally, you should, because the browser is one of the most vulnerable things, and I don't know why a lot of businesses leave that gap wide open. They're like, you can't install custom extensions, and I'm like, Dark Reader is part of my ADA compliance. I will fight you tooth and nail on this. That is one extension that is non-negotiable on all of my setups. No matter where I work or what I do, Dark Reader is installed. It's an ADA thing. If you're not familiar with what Dark Reader is, that's the thing that turns every website I go to into dark mode. Chief is from the Terran Universe, Terran Empire. I have no idea what that means. Light sensitivity plus myopia plus screen fatigue for me. What's myopia? I'm not familiar with that term. You'll use crimson red outline. Use dark mode and from the Terran Universe light sensitive. I use stylus from time to time. I can write custom CSS pages. I can't write CSS. I have to explain what I want to, Claude and have it do it for me. You also use night display mode. That's the thing that red shifts things, right? I use red shifting a little bit too.
Don't do that. Do anything else. Okay, maybe not anything else. Don't use a red glow either. Just use a white outline. Just do that. No need to reinvent the wheel. The wheel is fine. It's okay. Personally, I've never really been one to really care about these sort of VR environments. I don't have a VR headset. I don't act...
Hold on. I just noticed. Yeah, TikTok chats were not coming through. That's interesting. Hold on. Oh, wait, no, they were. No, wait, no, they're not. Hold on, I'm just refreshing that page. Yep, also Privacy Badger. Well, Privacy Badger, there can be arguments for and against it. That's not really an ADA compliance thing, whereas, dark mode is. Myopia is how the eye grows. In my case, the eyes grow longer than in the shape, causing nearsighted vision. Ah, interesting.
Actively use one myself, but I do know that for some people, this is a really important niche. This is something where they love working in VR. They love having their head.
Okay, hold up. 1 second. I'm gonna restart the chat menu over there. Because for some reason, the chat from TikTok was not coming through. I didn't know why. So, just bringing that out, bringing that down, doing that. And then let me just do a quick test over here. Unless TikTok borked something. Huh. It's not coming through, so I'm going to have to try to remember to look over
on
here.
Anything they can do in VR is going to be a better
YouTube,
way to
Twitch,
do
and
things.
Kick are working
now,
fine. TikTok
this plugin
just
is
goes
obviously,
derp sometimes.
this addition is going to obviously be a while to get things fully ironed out, but there are...
Wait, Jessica, you're colorblind? Isn't that a little bit more rare to happen in, ladies? I thought that, because normally most of the colorblind people I know are, like, men. I don't know if that's, like, actually true. I just know from, experience that's how it's been. That's interesting. How do we know if you're actually live? Well, I don't know. You tell me. Maybe. I'm like John Cena and you can't see me. You're not full colorblind, but red and green can be a party. Oh, so you got Christmas vision all the time.
Some things that do currently work and do sound pretty cool. Floating windows, obviously, the windows are all floating around. Physical and virtual screens, everything is
Nope,
3D.
not live, we are all
real
NPCs.
surfaces,
Yep, we're all
window
living in a
decorations and
simulation.
shadows, made for work, full keyboard control. So if you want to, pro...
On another note, why do people always come into my streams every now and then and just say, like, how do we know if you're live? Is this live? Are you AI? I've had people come into my TikTok videos and be like, is this AI? Look, if I'm not saying it's AI or it's pre-recorded and, the only thing I do pre-recorded is the actual YouTube videos. That's why I keep walking into a wall. Hashtag NPC. Look, if I'm pretty, open about if AI, I designate things as AI. If, pre-recorded, I'm pretty transparent about that. How can Chief be real if mirrors aren't real? Well, you know what is also not real, Abby? Birds are not real. All right? They're all a giant conspiracy. The birds never existed.
Program with a headset on, you can do that as well. Head gaze, no mouse, touchpad, or VR controller is required.
Streamers are
so
now
again,
live
this is
streaming
intended
their
for work.
YouTube
You look at the
videos.
window you're working on. You don't have to, like, move your mouse or move your controller over to the thing.
What do you mean, Vampire?
Like, back to the keyboard. That's awkward.
Block.
Native Qt rendering, direct DMA buff import, and a follow mode. Now, with this being regular Windows rendered in a way which is not how regular Windows would normally be rendered, it obviously does require some additional patches to get things working. So if you want to test this out right now, you will need to do a patched Qt and optionally patched X Wayland. If you don't use any X Wayland windows, any X11 windows, that part's optional, but the patched Qt is pretty much required. So those patches right now are available over in this speaker here, but the intention is to get all of this work entirely upstreamed, because otherwise, there's no point adding the VR mode in.
I barely have enough time to edit my YouTube videos. You think I'm gonna live stream my YouTube videos?
Then no one would be using that mode, because no one's going to go out of their way to go and do that. Most of the patches now have been upstreamed, but there are still some ones that are left over. Notably, these two changes over in Qt when their site wants to load. Okay. RHI add RGBA 16 texture format, and this one over here as well. This change is in Qt Quick 3D. This one's over in Qt Base. So, yeah, RGBA 16 is supported in KWin for DMA buffs. With this change, we can use those imported textures in Qt. The other change is over in X Wayland, and these ones might require some additional discussion to actually get
they
merged.
recorded a video of them acting live and put it on
it's
YouTube.
pretty
and
much
streaming
guaranteed
the video to
this
Twitch
is
and
going to
have
happen.
auto-end
It's just a
stream when
matter
the
of
video ends.
when the patches are going to be
Interesting.
merged. So whether they are gonna be in the next release or
I'm pretty sure that
sometime
y'all
after
can just
that,
hop over to
because
my
if
other
it's not
streams
soon,
and see
it's
I'm
gonna be like
chatting
a
to
year
different
from now, and that
platforms.
does sort of put a hold on the work being done over here. As for X-Wayland with the first patch, this reintroduces some older, already fixed regressions. For example, run xterm, open the menu by clicking Control left mouse button, and move the pointer across the different menu entries. The entries aren't selected with the pointer. This also reintroduced the issue 1811. X-Wayland cursor does not update at the end of a window resize, and 2008
TikTok user
revert
knowing
X-Wayland
multi-streams
update sprite
exist.
player
Yes.
to cleaning the focus window and fix it differently.
I will
Obviously,
admit,
if this patch is reintroducing old bugs, it does need.
I know TikTok is my most popular platform, but I will say that the average TikTok user has the lowest attention span, and I noticed they tend to have an inability to understand the other social media platforms, at least to the full extent. Like, when people are like, oh, you're streaming on other platforms? Like, a YouTuber and a Twitch user will naturally know to go check a profile to see links. A TikTok user, for some reason, doesn't seem to understand, and I'm not saying this is the majority, but it's definitely a plurality, that most creators put all their links in the one link in bio that they can have. But yeah, kids, oh yeah. But then again, that's a whole argument of, like, kids I don't think should really be on social media. Like, I know kids should have access to the internet and, be able to have those resources, but I've really grown up to really think that I don't know if you should be at least 13, maybe 16 to use social media, but yeah. How do they not know about other sites on TikTok? You'd be surprised. There are literally so many people that are like, wow, I didn't know you had name platform. I didn't know you were on YouTube. I didn't know you had a Discord or a Twitch. When you can go into their profile and generally check out and see, do they have these things? I thought you were going to say a YouTuber and a Twitch streamer walk into a bar. You're funny. That would imply that they actually touch grass. As the cybersecurity Twitch YouTuber streamer says that. I realize the irony here, okay? But we're not focusing on me. This is true. I see that a lot as well. People don't have critical thinking to think outside the box to check. Even if they don't list links in profile, common sense to Google username and check for other sites. Yeah. The majority of creators generally have the same username across different platforms. You do touch grass. Maybe. Well, I at least have... In this chat right now, I have 2 people that can, witness... are my witness to I have actually been outside in the real world. Of course, I've ironically only been drinking with those 2 people. Anyway.
Some work to, not reintroduce old bugs, otherwise you kind of
my
defeating
parents
the
have no
whole
idea
point
what
of
DMCA claims are,
fixing the
despite
bugs.
years of bigger
As for the
stories ending up on
second
the
patch,
news. Interesting.
X-Wayland remove limits for
2 people, ping me the other one. It's Stabby the Abbey. I met her IRL at DEF CON. We hung out, we went to the pool party, we went to some village parties together. Maybe you 2 can actually meet if you go to DEF CON with me. I told you, if this is going to be your first con, hopefully I'll make it out there. I should. I'm going to show you. I'm going to learn you. Of course, I'm not going to be there, by your side the whole time. What I tend to do for people that are new is I'll explain to you the ropes, meet up maybe around lunch and dinner. After the thing, we'll party together. But I like people their first con to experience it themselves. You got to get that vibe the first year. That's what happened to me too. Colonel Dump did the same thing to me. And there's also, what is it, the Lonely Hackers Club or whatever it's called, where like new people to DEF CON can like meet up. And the cool thing about DEF CON is your first con, you're going to make some really great friends that you're going to keep in touch with. And then you're going to make more and more friends every year. That's how it was for me. Just like, so like, the local, DEF CON group that we hang out at, yeah, it's kind of like that, but at a larger scale. Yeah, so you two ladies now know of each other. You're both really chill people. I love hanging out with both of you. If I ever go to the con, I'm going to hang out with the furries. If you go to the furries, let me know how much their badge is, and I will totally buy one off of you. I want the furry badge. I'm not a furry, but the furries have one of the most goddamn cool badges, okay? Yeah. Chill, you're a flipping mess. Well, that's just called a chill cybersecurity person. If I ever find a sane, mentally stable cybersecurity person, they are a liar and an imposter. They are the Among Us, character. What is a furry? The ones who dress up? Yep, those are the people. They dress up in, like, furry outfits and have a fursona and all of that. Not my cup of tea. Don't understand it. But there's a large number of STEM professionals, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, who are furries. Like, straight up, be nice to furries, because a lot of them basically run the critical infrastructure. And, yeah.
Wayland Pointer.
You make furries.
This one is having quite a bit more discussion.
Yeah, they ain't cheap.
This change helps when the next level window receives pointer events into the part
and some of them are like
AC
AC systems and everything.
Screen bounds. Windows located at -50, that being the root, receives absolute pointer event at 1010 surface local. It is then translated to
I don't understand a lot of shit, but if it doesn't bother anyone, I don't give a fuck.
Then clamped to the screen geometry and becomes 00. 00, the root, is translated to window local 5050. This patch effectively removes those limits, and the window will get the enter/motion events at 1010 local and -40, -40 root as expected. I'm not sure that this will not break some edge cases, and that this is actually the best way to do this, but so far it is working under Kwin, and probably other Wayland compositors do pointer movement limiting themselves. This is pretty much important for VR. Windows can have sizes larger than the screen. Limiting them to the screen dimensions is awkward. Now, the problem is this change is sort of wrapped up in a discussion from about 5 years ago.
Oh, I've hugged her.
Which
furries.
is, kind of normal anything in the Wayland world. Even though this is Xorg, this is X-Wayland, it's still Wayland to some extent, so yeah, you're gonna have to deal with long-running issues. The discussion I reference isn't about clients, but about X-server code. The way I see it, there are two fundamental approaches here. One, make X-server work perfectly for negative coordinates by fixing all such issues. Two, never place outputs at negative coordinates in the coordinate space shared with X-Wayland in the Wayland compositor. The first one requires unknown effort, and you can never be sure that you've squashed all bugs and there aren't some lurking somewhere. The second one is straightforward, and you know the issue can't happen. Seems like a no-brainer to me. So what exactly is going to happen with these X-Wayland patches is kind of unclear, but again, this isn't required to make the functionality work. This is just required to make X-Wayland Windows behave properly in the VR environment. If it's not fixed, again, it's not the end of the world. It's not preferred, but it'll still survive. Now, going back over to the main merge request draft VR mode. So this links out to some separate things as well. The main issue is basically a tracking issue for things that need to be added. So we have the Qt patches here, we have the X-Wayland patches as well, and there's not really much going on in this thread because this is basically the only person involved in working on this code. Now, Again, as I said, the exploit and patch is not required. These ones are basically critical. Without those, then you do have some problems, and Qute's definitely not going to work in this environment, which is a big deal. And, you know, with KDE kind of being built with Qt, yeah, definitely does matter. And we also have a separate merge request for some related additional changes that need to be made to Kwin. Now, in that main thread, I do want to highlight one comment from David Edmondson of the KDE project. So obviously,
this is all the KDE stuff that they're basically doing. I'll be interested to see if a lot of this stuff ports into Cosmic and the other desktop environments, because I'm planning to use more of the Cosmic stuff. I'm pretty sure System 76 is going to work on some stuff.
there's a lot of excitement about this. Oh, wow, amazing, incredible, awesome. But David initially had some, maybe not skepticism,
monies, custom electronics, custom
concerns
programming, custom
about
wiring.
where this is being done. At the end of the day, you're doing separate input with separate rendering with separate window placement logic. You're not using much else Kwin provides, and things like placement logic are only getting in the way. So the key question I have before anything else is, what is Kwin providing that means there's a benefit to having it in the Kwin process? We can forward window buffers pretty cheaply, and a path-through application level input forwarding is definitely something we want to pursue and can hook up. So the question is, why even have this be part of Kwin? Why not do it separately from it and still do the same work? The end goal here is to make Kwin run without flat displays, so KDE can be a fully fledged VR desktop environment. The VR plugin relies very heavily on Kwin's internal features. Input. The plugin provides an absolute pointer device, Kwin VR input device. It just moves the pointer like a mouse or touchpad, so all input filters and event delivery system is working as usual.
So right now I have more on Twitch than I do on YouTube.
Outputs, and any window can
but yesterday I had way more on YouTube than I did on Twitch.
There is an option to use window thumbnail instead of the plugin's decorated surface window 3D. The primary reason why the separate rendering logic was created in the first place is performance. Qt has a render thread and a shared OpenGL context, so we can't just draw there using the current renderer. Then it is evolved. Subsurfaces, shadows, decorations as 3D objects. Here, I would like to avoid making the same stuff again, so I'm expecting to improve Kwin's render, and it will be able to draw both for 2D and 3D in the future. 3. Window placement logic. Only Kwin decides where to put windows. Placement logic is only slightly changed for pop-ups. It's up to the user to move windows outside of outputs, and even then the transient windows placement / movement.
So they talk about performance over here.
4.
I'm curious.
When you render 10,000 by 8,000 90 FPS, any additional stuff like off-screen rendering or moving buffers screencast hits hard. For comfort work, you have to render at high resolution because of text clarity.
Yeah, I'm curious about how that works, because, like, you're essentially rendering a massive screen. So, like, if I have 3 1080p monitors right now and I upgrade to 1440p, you're doing a lot more work. And as the screen size gets larger, and then I'm just curious about how powerful of a machine you'd need to process that. But with the Valve Steam frame, if it doing onboard processing could potentially offload a lot of that capability. I'm curious, because a lot of them I know depend on the main system. If I do get VR, the new Valve Steam frame would probably be the first one I ever buy. But I'm not sure I'll buy it. But I'm definitely going to buy the new Valve Steam controller. But I'm kind of leaning towards actually buying the Steam frame, because I think it'd be nice to have as a portable computer. So, like, imagine I can watch Crunchyroll in bed and not bother whoever's in bed with me. You know? Because sometimes I like to watch TV as I go to sleep.
And 5, not yet implement features like drag and drop or VR screencast will be very hard to implement separately. I want to have the same user experience as we have now for flat displays, but translated to VR, and I believe that in the end, Kwin should become a VR compositor without any plugins. And from this point onwards,
try to port
David was also involved
I wouldn't be surprised
reviewing work being done. So, I guess that was a good enough answer. So right now we are at the iteration stage. Nothing has yet been merged. There's still those additional patches outside of this that need to be worked on. And it seems like things are going in a reasonable direction. There's work being done on the patch, all this good stuff, but nothing
VR and AR
really
is still a very niche thing.
Set yet. It's just general improvements being made. So
you need background noise.
I guess we'll wait and see what happens with it. Most likely it's gonna be merged. When that's gonna happen, again, kind of depends on the other dependencies. So I guess we will we'll wait and see. Hopefully it goes well. And yeah, if you have a VR headset and you want to help out with the project, go try it out, go test it, and do all of that good stuff. I think this is cool. Is it something I'd use actively? Probably not. Even if I had a VR headset, I'm not a fan of wearing something on my head all day, but I know some people do like that, so...
Yeah, that's my issue. I'm not really a fan of having anything on my head all day, like glasses.
Go like the video. Let me know your thoughts down below. Is this something you would use? Have you tried it out already? I'd love to know. Go subscribe as well. And if you really like the video and you want to become one of these amazing people over here, check out the Patreon, subscribe to Daily Therapy, linked in the description down below. That's going to be it for me, and this is cool.
I mean, it's an interesting thing. Don't know where we'll go from here with it. Okay, let's see. Getting gnomed from UFD Tech.
If you use Linux wrong, you can get gnomed. Unfortunately, getting gnomed in this context doesn't mean that the Gnome Liberation Front has come to your garden and stolen your precious porcelain peasant and set it free to be back in the wild, but it's something less fun, to be honest. It turns out that if you don't pay attention to what you're installing on certain Penguin distros, upon restart, GNOME will be there, and
it's GNOME. I'm sorry, I have to be petty, but it's called GNOME. It's one of those little things where you can tell someone that actually is in the Linux space when they're talking about technology that makes you just go like, I don't know how I can really, like, trust your opinions on a lot of things. Like, in the same way as, like, people that call Linux, Linux. Because Torvalds himself said it's Linux. It's gnomed. The reason why, and it also cracks me up how many people come into my chat and it's like, why do you keep calling it GNOME? Why do you keep calling it GNOME? Well, if you go on Wikipedia, it's GNU, Object Manipulation Environment, if I remember. But yeah, it's GNOME in the same way as it's GNU. Because, no, it's GNU, GNU, shit, what does it stand for? GNOME stands for, I know it starts with GNU. GNU Network Object Model Environment. I was like, I think it's network, but I wasn't sure and I didn't want to look stupid. But yeah.
Be taking over your entire PC. GNOME, though, isn't a virus, but rather a desktop environment, or the way that you actually interact with the operating system, the windows, icons, etc. And gnoming happens because certain programs install dependencies for GNOME that end up installing and
It really bothers me that he keeps saying GNOME. It really does. I know it shouldn't, but it does.
Implementing the whole thing, so you're just greeted with a new looking desktop upon rebooting. It's such a prevalent issue, there's even an entire subreddit dedicated to getting gnomed. Got gnomed isn't super popular or anything, but it does exist. Arguments like KDE versus GNOME versus Cinnamon and more is where Linux nerds will endlessly chirp and chatter about which is better, so be careful what you have to say.
Maybe the people that don't touch grass, I just am like, hey, does it work for you? Do you like it? Then, yeah.
About GNOME in the comments. And also be careful out there. Linux can just do stuff sometimes. So, you know, maybe stick to Temple OS.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. We got this from HBX. Cantwell claims telecoms blocked release of Salt Typhoon report. Interesting. Senator Maria Cantwell, Democrat of Washington, wants hearings to force AT&T and Verizon to disclose how they've responded to the hacks to protect telecom networks. This is something I've actually been waiting on since before the Trump administration came in. He did disband the cooperative task force that Biden put in place to address things like Salt Typhoon, and I've really been wondering about this. So if you're not familiar with Salt Typhoon, that was the alleged, well, not alleged, compromise, but that was when the telecom networks were compromised allegedly by China. It's pretty much been confirmed at this point, for state actors. And they backdoored the network for them by using the legal warrant system to tap files. Yeah, wiretap connections and stuff like that. So basically, there's a system that they created in a backdoor. I think it's as part of the Patriot Act, if I'm not mistaken. I could be mistaken. But basically, instead of law enforcement going and having to, do this long process that, in my opinion, should really be there, they can submit a subpoena warrant or anything to then get backdoor access into telecommunication systems. Salt Typhoon took advantage of that because, as I've said, and you've probably heard this before from many other cybersecurity people, there is no way to guarantee that only one person is going to be able to use that backdoor. Once you create one backdoor, even if it's intended just for yourself, there is the possibility that that backdoor can be used by malicious actors as well. That's why we've always been against intentional government backdoors, because it's like, well, we need to do this to stop criminals, and we're like, but by allowing it, you allow more criminals to get access potentially to our data. Yeah. The stream buffered. I'm not getting a drop frames, but TikTok generally has lower quality than the Twitch, Kick, and YouTube stream. So the stream is mostly optimized for Twitch and YouTube, and there's Kick, because there's things off screen that are cut. But anyway, this does not surprise me, because right now, and this is not especially new to any administration, Democrat or Republican, but the Trump administration definitely has been cozying up to big technology companies and getting them a pass on a lot of different things. Like, there's been monopoly investigations and stuff that have stalled, and all these other things that just should not be happening. And AT&T and Verizon should have been forced to disclose a long time ago what their mitigations have been to those hacks to protect telecom networks. Because but the other thing is, it shouldn't have been just Verizon and AT&T. It was every telecom provider, to my understanding. There were, like T-Mobile, I believe, was affected by it, as well as others. This should have been a wake-up call for the entirety of the telecom industry, not just those two big companies. And there's also smaller telecom companies that were hit too and everything. According to Cantwell, she has already requested documentation from AT&T CEO John Stankey and then Verizon CEO Hans Vestberg on how they've responded to the breaches. Both confirmed that Mandiant, Google's Cloud Incident Response and Threat Intelligence Division, wrote a report, one that Cantwell said would presumably document the vulnerabilities identified and detail what corrective actions telecoms took to improve their privacy and security. She claimed after requesting the report from Mandiant, AT&T and Verizon apparently intervened to block Mandiant from cooperating with my requests. Now, there's no reason why, especially in a case like this, that you would block Mandiant or another security report from being disclosed, especially in a situation this high profile, unless you're trying to cover up that you fucked up bad. There's no way around it to say that. So, my understanding is that AT&T and, my understanding outside of just this issue, AT&T and Verizon have been behind the ball for a lot of their stuff. They've basically laid back on the fact that there isn't that much competition in their respective spaces. So the fact that they got caught with their pants down in terms of security, it just makes them show how, makes you all know how vulnerable they are, and they don't want government to know how vulnerable things are, or that potentially there were intentional, I don't know what the better word for this, but there's incompetence around there. They were maybe lazy on implementing correct safeguards. There could have been lack of training. A lot of things, basically, that may have been easily preventable that they were just so lax on that they dropped the ball heavily, and it's going to make them look bad. That's my 2 cents on it. What is this song? It's a song that I have bought from a beat maker a long time ago that I have exclusive rights to. So you're not going to be able to find a lot of my background music anywhere else. This is just my normal VOD music that I have in the background. Or not VOD, but typical background music. Alright, so we have that. HBX has this as well. From CBC News, tracking a Canadian math whiz who allegedly stole $65 million in cryptocurrency.
Scheme. Andy Medjedovic. I'm looking for a young Canadian man, a fugitive, who's wanted as part of a multi-million-dollar crypto scheme. Andy Medjedovic is a math whiz from Hamilton, Ontario.
He graduated high school when he was just 14, and that's why local news station CHCH profiled him in 2017.
A young high school student is making Hamilton history. He's set to become the youngest graduate ever in the city's public district.
I don't really feel any different from the regular high school student. It's just that I've spent a little less time in high school.
He got a master's degree in mathematics before he turned 20, and he's wanted in the United States.
Oh, damn.
Federal criminal charges related to 2 cryptocurrency hacks worth about $65 million.
U.S. authorities believe that he was here, in Bosnia at some point.
In fact, police were at this apartment building that I'm in just this past summer.
I think it's nothing short of extraordinary that this individual has been in hiding for as long as he has.
This apartment was
especially as young as he
registered
is.
after the first heist in 2021, and since then, he's been moving around quite a bit. Dutch authorities say he used a fake Slovak passport when checking into a hotel outside Amsterdam in 2023. They allege he pulled off a hack worth
This is like a real-life
$28
Catch Me
US
If You
while living
Can.
there, and suddenly left the country the next morning. From there, he flew to Istanbul and then on to Kuwait. And from Kuwait, it's our understanding that he traveled here to Bosnia. We know all of this because of Serbian court documents that we have. He was arrested flying from Dubai into Serbia in 2024.
The Serbians held him for a few months, but eventually released him, at which point he disappeared. While we've been here, we've been
Really?
talking to family members to see if we can piece things together, but no luck yet. I'm looking for a young Canadian man,
That's interesting. I mean, that's a young dude. I think he's still on the run. Okay, so how printed circuit board motors are insanely efficient. Alright, let's see what this video is about. This is from Zyroth, however you say it. This will be interesting.
You're probably familiar with the inside of an electric motor.
Yeah.
With permanent magnets and
Right.
copper coils. But the inside of a printed circuit board motor
Usually single or
looks a
triple
little
phase.
different, with the large copper coils replaced for thin green boards. This is an intriguing design of motor that claims to be able to replace more conventional designs in a range of applications, from ventilation to transportation, all whilst improving efficiency and reliability. But are these claims based on reality, and what results are there to back this up? As always, I respect your time, so let's get straight into the engineering. I'm Ryan Innes, and this is a Zeroth Deep Dive. The stator of an electric machine is generally made by winding copper wire into coils and putting them around a set of metal teeth to hold them in place.
Been around for
This
centuries.
varies depending on the motor design, but across a variety
You got
of
your
motors,
windings
you can
and
usually spot the
patterns.
stator coils pretty quickly. For printed
Canada
circuit
gets
boards or
overlooked a lot, but we
PCB
do have
motors,
quality education
these
on how to
stator
dodge the
coils
government.
are less obvious.
Canada gets overlooked a lot, but I mean, America's education bar is so extremely low. I don't think a lot of people understand how bad the education system is in America. I've been saying that for a while. a lot of the things I learned, I didn't learn in school. It was thanks to parents that were really involved. My mother was really good at English and literature. My father, French Moroccan with a bachelor's in mathematics and engineering. So I was already doing some complex algebra in like elementary school and stuff like that. They actually kept my mind busy and active and encouraged creativity. Whereas I think schools, American education is more basically trying to churn out you to be a factory worker, if anything. At least that's what it feels like to me.
The PCB stators instead have copper plated into them across a number of layers in the shape of coils. These are made using the same approach as the circuit boards in almost all electrical devices.
You know, this actually makes sense.
Manufacturing relatively straightforward. This ease of manufacturing, due to decades of experience, is something that the company Infinitum mention a lot. And their motor is the one I will mainly focus on in this video, though other PCB motors are available. As printed circuit board stators have to be flat, it means that the classical radial flux designs are not possible, as the coils would need to be wrapped around the rotating rotor in a cylindrical type shape. Instead, for PCB motors, the pancake style, called axial flux motors, are used instead because the stator is already more of a flat disc, which lends itself nicely to printed circuit boards. Due to their shape and layout, axial flux motors cause the magnetic flux to run along the axis of the machine instead of the radius, hence the name. This design change
drives a lot of people in this field, I'll tell you.
Over radial flux,
it's getting me to get my bachelor's,
resulting in axial flux motors generally having higher torque and power ratings for the same physical size. However, I don't really see the increased torque and power possibilities as really the key motivator here. I think it's more to do with the shape, because as we will see, PCB motors might not be the best for high torque, high power applications. Aside from the PCB stator, the motor from Infinitum is actually quite similar to the axial flux motor I've covered before by Yasa. Firstly, there is a motor made from magnets stuck to a metal disc. This fits onto a shaft with the stator that includes the copper windings, and then a second magnetic rotor. These are all placed inside a metal housing, and the power electronics are integrated into the system.
So more or less, it's like a smart motor.
But the main novelty on this motor is of course due to the PCB stator, so let's focus in on that a little bit more. Firstly, when looking at almost all conventional electric motors which use exposed copper wires or bars to make the stator coils, the cross-sectional area of the copper in the wires is constant throughout the windings, as they're generally made from a single piece of copper. However, this constraint of a constant cross-sectional area doesn't apply to PCB stator motors, because you can design the copper to be just about any shape you want. Because the resistance of the copper in the PCB stator is proportional to the cross-sectional area of the copper, it can be designed and tuned to best suit the motor's requirements by varying the coil's widths, allowing control over the current in different parts of the windings. This means that losses can be reduced by reducing the resistance in connection points, or it can help balance magnetic flux more efficiently throughout the coil. This becomes quite a difficult optimization process.
Now, I'm curious because, you know, PCBs have a limited amount of thickness. I mean, you can make them pretty thick. Because, you know, how this would compare to the thickness in a wire that you can have with a motor, because there's many windings and patterns and all of that. So I'm curious overall how that would function. But, yeah.
Which is why a lot of these PCB motor companies are also developing their own simulation and optimization software packages. The coils can also take a number of interesting shapes, like rhomboidal, circular, or whatever the hell these ones on the bottom are. A few other benefits that Infinitum mentions for their motor originate from the fact that there is no steel in the stator's core, giving it the name air core motor. and these benefits include no cogging, no torque ripple, and no iron losses. The cogging and torque ripple happen in standard motor designs because the permanent magnets feel a natural attraction to the steel teeth of the stator, creating cogging. If you pick up a permanent magnet motor and spin the shaft, you'll feel a sort of notched effect, and that is the permanent magnets sticking to the metal parts of the stator.
Yeah.
You can see this clearly in a 3D model I've loaded in my CAD platform Onshape. This is a radial flux motor, but the idea is the same in the infinitum motor too. As the magnets rotate around, they'll feel a stronger attraction to the steel of the stator when it's near one of the teeth, and less as it aligns with the gaps between the teeth, hence causing that cogging effect. When the motor is running, this magnetic stickiness adds a torque ripple, which manifests as inconsistent power delivery, vibration, and noise. Also, these constant magnetization and demagnetization cycles cause unwanted heat to build up due to losses. Combined with unwanted circulating currents in the steel, you get a phenomenon called iron core losses. But by completely removing the iron from the stator, the air core design eliminates the magnetic obstacles that cause these stutters and removes the material responsible for iron losses and core heating, which can result in a motor that runs smoother, quieter, and more efficiently. They provide this graph showing the efficiency of their motor and drive compared to other permanent magnet motors, showing a roughly 7% increase. Though I do think they could have found a more efficient conventional motor to compare this to. They say the efficiency is also more constant through the operating range, making it good for applications that need a variety of speeds. So this all sounds pretty positive, but there were a few concerns that came to mind.
That is good. Well, I mean, if you need a variety of speeds, I mean, most motors, you just dial up and down the, voltage, I think. But yeah.
As I was reading this. Firstly, one of the hot topics in electric motor design is how to remove the generated heat.
Yep, that has been an issue for a while.
As they generate a lot of it.
Right.
Normally, the heat from the windings can easily flow into the metal of the stator and then be taken away using a cooling fluid.
Yeah.
However, because the circuit board material of the PCB stator is much less thermally conductive, I imagine it's going to be a lot harder to pull the heat out of these windings.
Yeah.
Which, in turn, could limit the power available from these machines. Infinitum does have an interesting solution to this, however, which involves directly cooling the stator boards with a non-conductive fluid that is...
I was just gonna say, like, what if you were to immerse that in a non-conductive fluid, similar to what we do with a lot of data centers, where we do immersive cooling, where they're basically just in this pool, like, it's not mineral oil, there's actually better materials for that, but that's, like, the thing most people know or can understand when it comes to computer building. But yeah, if you were to immerse that and then have that pump the heat away, that could actually be very nice. Now, the question I also have is, once this scales up economically, could this be cheaper than our typical motors in electric vehicles? And if with them being smaller, can we also make them lighter and a little bit more efficient? But I guess the question also comes down to reliability, but that'll also be tied into the ability to wick away all that heat.
Sprayed onto them, which is a method used in conventional motors too. The coolant, perhaps an oil, comes in through the shaft of the motor and spins outwards due to the apparent centrifugal force it feels. Similar to how water flings to the walls of a spinning washing machine during the spin cycle.
I never thought about putting it down the shaft.
PCB stators and directly absorbs the heat before draining out of the bottom, meaning the motor can be cooled much more effectively and therefore produce more output power without overheating.
You'd be intrigued by
I did notice that there were multiple stators in this example, which is apparently
because EVs have a problem in cold environments.
So this should help to improve power and prevent overheating, but I still think it will be a lot harder than cooling a conventional motor. Now, the second thing I was thinking about was the reliability. I can't find any peer-reviewed reports on this, but Infinitum says a third-party test found the reliability of their machines to be 10 times higher than conventional ones. This is apparently because
Well, the interesting thing, too, is they're saying it's using 66% less copper, and copper is, while it's not as expensive as a precious metal, it is an expensive component in and of itself, and if that's the case, that can actually reduce the weight and the costs.
Conventional machines, as they heat up and cool down over many cycles, the expansion and contraction of the wires causes them to rub together and wear out the insulation, which then causes short circuits. However, for the PCB motors, the copper and circuit board material expand and contract at similar rates, preventing this wear from happening. In terms of systems in the real world, they appear to have a range from 5 to 15 horsepower.
That's not a lot.
The main one I've seen appears to be 10 horsepower or 7.5 kilowatts that weighs 45 kilograms, giving it a power density of just 0.2 kilowatts per kilogram, far less than automotive motors, which are usually around 5 to 10 kilowatts per kilogram. My guess here is that this comes...
Yeah, but at 10 horsepower, that's not a lot of power compared to the automotive ones. So I guess we would have to see how they can scale up. Because we still need a lot of power on each of those motors. Compared relatively to that. Because I think in a lot of cases we're going to want maybe 150 or more horsepower at minimum. At minimum.
Comes down to the fact that the motors operate at pretty low current, and therefore pretty low torque as well, especially when compared to EV motors. I think this is because the copper coils in the PCB are so thin that they can't carry much current without overheating. This is also combined with other design choices.
That goes back a little bit to what I said earlier about thicker gauge wire with how thick the PCB can actually be. So maybe this is more useful in smaller applications than larger applications and may not scale as well due to PCB limitations. I could be wrong.
Like the fact they're using an air core stator instead of iron that can't concentrate the magnetic flux. All of this draws me to believe that these PCB machines are really best suited for industrial motor applications that require reliable and efficient operation, like fans. Although
I was just thinking industrial
fans. Experimenting in the electric vehicle space, it seems less suited to this from my perspective. But that isn't really a problem. Making motors more efficient and reliable for industrial applications is extremely important, as huge amounts of electricity we generate go to industrial applications. I can't find public information about the costs of these motors. However, for industrial applications, that doesn't really matter. This is because what really matters is the lifetime cost of a motor, and 97% of that for industrial machines comes from the electricity that they use.
Right.
Therefore, by making a motor more efficient, you can drastically reduce the overall cost. Hopefully I've remembered all the useful information you might want to know about this motor, but please let me know if there's anything else you'd want me to include, as I often get sidetracked focusing on the specifics of the engineering. If you've enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing. And if you need a fantastic platform for 3D modeling in engineering or design, then let me tell you a bit about today's sponsor, Onshape. Onshape is the world's most widely used cloud-native computer-aided design and
so it's a CAD program that you can basically
product
use
data management platform.
from
And
AWS.
because it's fully cloud-based, there are no installs, no downloads, and zero IT overheads.
Let me look at this. Because that actually can help me maybe move away from AutoCAD Fusion 360, which was a Windows-required thing. Curious about that. How much you gonna cost? Onshape. Pricing. Oh, they got a free plan. This actually looks kind of promising. I'm gonna have to play with that eventually. You get CAD tools for free. Oh, you got cam at the professional plan. The issue is it's per user per year, but that's like AutoCAD pricing, basically. But let's see, like Fusion 360. Let's see. Pricing for that. AutoCAD Fusion 360. Still cheaper if you end up paying for it. Did they get rid of the personal version that you used to be able to use? Because that'll be annoying. Wait, Autodesk Fusion for design. I thought they had a personal one. Oh, there we go. Oh, free. Yeah, so they have a free version here. I was like, yeah, I thought they had a free version. For personal, non-commercial projects only, limited to individuals generating less than $1,000 USD annually, and not for use in primary employment, company environments, or commercial training. So yeah. But this could be an interesting alternative. You've only used FreeCAD? I mean, it's a solution, but it's not a great one. But, yeah. I'll have to look that up. Alright, so let's see. Next short. FPS is cooked. Legal cheating is here.
FPS cheating just became legal. MSI just dropped a monitor with built-in wall hack. Anti-cheat is useless against this.
Wait, what?
In any FPS game you play, it puts a glowing border around every enemy. Even spots enemies camping in pitch black shadowy corners. Through walls, through smoke, everything. But here's where it gets really crazy. You know when you get flashed in a game, your entire screen just goes white, you can't see anything. This monitor's AI detects the flash and kills the brightness before it even hits. You're not blind, they see nothing. Unfair advantage every single round. And get this, it's hardware, not software, so anti-cheat can't touch it at all. And this isn't even MSI's first time doing this. Their previous gaming monitor read your minimap and marked enemy locations with red skulls all in real time. Hardware cheating is here.
Okay, I'm not necessarily hating that, but this goes to my point that kernel-level anti-cheat doesn't work as effectively as people think. How are you going to defend against that? What, do a DisplayPort connection, and then if you have this monitor, you're not going to allow people? That's going to piss off more people than anything, because there's going to be quite a few people that maybe buy the monitor without knowing that feature. Or they spent all this money on a monitor, and they're not able to play a game. They're going to want to use the monitor than they will the game, because the monitor cost them a lot more money. How much is this monitor?
FPS cheating just became legal. MSI just dropped a
What is that? The MSI Meg X. Okay. MSI MEG X monitor. Alright, so I'm trying to see. MSI introduces... It's actually a pretty good monitor, I will say, just from specs. I don't think it's going to be a cheap monitor. But this is it. I mean, monitor-wise, it's actually pretty nice. QD OLED, 34-inch, 360 hertz. And that's got AI built in. VESA Clear MR 18000 and Display HDR True Black 500. 0.03 millisecond gray-to-gray response time. This is actually a really good monitor. Like, spec-wise, if I had money, I'd buy this just for that. Like, the color on it seems to be great, even for content creation. But yeah, they're going to have this AI built in that, is going to let you spot people. And, I mean, how are they going to be able to really tell that you're using this monitor? Or how are they going to really prevent against this? AI visuals processed locally. Yeah, I kind of figured as much. it's got their own NPU. I'd be curious to see if that actually works on Linux. I do like the crosshair that you can add in. Oh, that's nice. Can actually light up areas. I mean, overall, it's a good monitor. But again, as I was saying, this proves my point where kernel level anti-cheat does not work nearly as effective as people think it does. And kernel level anti-cheat is a BS design done by developers to find a shortcut, and it doesn't work as well as they think. Yeah, anyway. Okay, Vampire, I get it. You like Hightail. I'm moving on to the next video after that. I've seen enough Hightail videos, okay? So what is this? The Markiplier situation is sad. What's going on with this?
The Markiplier situation is just sad. Recently, Markiplier released his movie Iron Lung, which is based off of the game of the same name. He fully self-funded and created this movie himself. So releasing it was a major accomplishment.
That's the movie people were talking
about.
about.
All accords, this movie has been very successful.
Okay, so
even
what's the
at
issue?
one point topping #1 on the charts and making over
Good for him.
5 times its budget. However,
great.
people started noticing that shortly after it reached #1, it was removed from the charts entirely.
Wait,
And
what?
Markiplier even made a post talking about this, saying that he was disappointed that his movie was removed. And so this has led people into believing that this might be a kind of conspiracy, that people in Hollywood aren't very happy that a YouTuber is making a more successful movie than the slop they've been putting out recently. The Markiplier situation is just sad.
That is such bull. Like, Hollywood needs to understand the reason why they're failing is they're not listening to their consumer base, and they're just repeating the same old slop over and over again. It's like, when they finally, it was taken down and the public sentiment had it put back up. But either way, Hollywood has been so out of touch for so long that they just kind of throw whatever can stick at a wall. And then when they finally find something that works, they overly produce that specific content to the point that we get sick of it. Like superhero movies. I loved superhero movies. Blade, one of my all-time favorites. I've been wanting a Deadpool movie for a long time. I love Deadpool. And then, you know, they had the whole Marvel movies. They led up to the whole Avengers, you know. Yeah, they milk it to the nth degree. And then, you know, we had the final, like, apex of it, which was the one when they basically wrapped up the whole story. Captain basically, you know, retired, all that. And then they just milked it more and more and more and more. And more. And eventually, we just got tired of it. Same thing with Star Wars. I love Star Wars. The first 6 of them. And then Disney got rights to it and made episode 7. I was not that happy with the story of 7. I'm sorry if you liked it or not. I'm not hating on you, but I just was not a fan of it. And it made me lose my appreciation for a lot of the Star Wars series. Except for, I mean, episodes 4 through 6 are still going to be the GOAT. The original trilogy. Those are the GOAT. The flamethrower update. Yeah, I saw your Hightail video. I don't play Hightail yet. I'm kind of tired with the disproportion of Hightail videos we have been playing lately. Hollywood seems to have taken the second screen philosophy, which hand feeds and repeats information constantly. Yeah, and I would rather Hollywood spend more time, money, and energy into lower budget, original ideas that may have potential to fail more than these big Hollywood. And the other thing is, like, they're making these stories and they're trying to make it appeal to everyone, but then it appeals to no one. Let's look at comedies. If you look at the comedies that I grew up with in the 90s, the 2000s, a lot of them couldn't be remade today. Because, I mean, of course, there's cultural changes, things like that, that just goes without saying. Like, you couldn't remake Blazing Saddles today if you really wanted to, even though it was a satire on racism, if you actually look at a lot of the stuff there. But the point being is now we have to have this comedy that they want to have appeal to the lowest common denominator, that it often doesn't actually come great. Like, if we even look at, like, The Office, a lot of the original episodes of The Office, if you were to remake them today, would not be well received. I'm tired of unfaithful adaptations. Hollywood just butchers IPs with fan base. Absolutely. Like, Ghost in the Shell. I've talked about this. It's one of my all-time favorite animes. If you paid attention to my desk, you'll see Motoko is here on the desk mat I have. She's in the computer case. I love that series. I loved the noir-esque that they took on everything, where it got you to ask, where does machine end and human begin? What defines a human? You know, all these ethical questions that we're now pondering today that we used to have in science fiction. And they made it into a live-action movie, which, no hate to Scarlett Johansson. Love her as an actor. But I don't think she was the right person for the role, as well as I don't think that the movie they did was fleshed out in the right ways, because they were trying to make it appeal to too broad of an audience. It's the same thing with Star Wars. Star Wars, you've already had your Star Wars geeks. All right? And then they tried to make it appeal to everyone. And it's like, no, you should have just, you know, stuck to, you know, what you knew worked well if you're going to do it. But yeah, anyway, that's my soapbox. Yeah, so let's see. HBX brought up another article over here. What's with Hollywood spamming well-known actors? I came for the story, not hashtag The Rock. Because they think that because it's an actor that they're going to test well, but they don't seem to understand that, celebrity culture with millennials and newer generations is not quite the same thing as it was with Gen X and boomers. We'll appreciate actors and say, hey, they're great, but we're not necessarily going to watch movies nearly as much just because they have that certain actor or actress. We generally come for the story. We're actually very happy when it's like, I have never seen this actor before. They came out of nowhere. I love them in this performance. I hope I can see more of them. But that doesn't mean that we go out specifically to see that actor or actress in that piece of film. I really died with COVID. What did? Yeah. Everyone is stealing TV. This is the article that HBX put up. So let's see. Fed up with increasing subscription prices, viewers embrace rogue streaming boxes. So in a way, we've talked about this. I'm not paying you, Verge! Just ask me to disable my ad blocker. Here, let's see. Does it still block me if I disable my ad blocker? Okay, so, look, there's the farmers in small town, and you might stumble across something unexpected. In between booths selling fresh local pickles beer, there's a table piled high with generic-looking streaming boxes promising free access to NFL games, UFC fights, and any cable TV network you can think of. You know, I've not actually seen those IRL. I've seen them all over the place on internet forums and different stores, AliExpress and stuff like that. But I've also warned people about buying these kind of boxes because, generally speaking, if you're buying hardware designed to pirate, there is the huge potential that they put other backdoor malware. And that has been proven in several cases, where these boxes will call home to China or wherever they're hosted with a lot of data. Some are worming their way through networks, collecting other information that way. But yeah, anyway. COVID killed theater etiquette. Iron Lung was reported to be a breath of fresh air for staff. Oh, I bet. It's called the Super Box, and it's being demoed by Jason, who also has homemade banana bread, okra, and canned goods for sale. That's an interesting combination. Y'all want to buy this illegal cable box to get all your streaming features? I also got okra, banana bread, and some canned goods for sale. Don't get me wrong, I love okra too. I love okra. It's one of my favorite things. If I go to a nice soul food place and I see okra, I'm ordering that shit. Buy a super box for $300 to $400 instead, and you'll never have to shell out money for cable or streaming subscriptions again. And I think this is the problem that we've been having for a while. Like I've said for a while, we don't need to require subscriptions to the NFL. Okay? The NFL already has enough slots for advertising with all the start and stopping that they should just stream it with the ads included. But the problem is the NFL, in many cases, and other sport events do the same thing, they sell it to the TV networks, and then the TV networks then run ads on those respective things, whereas the NFL and NBA and MLS or, FIFA, whatever, could cut out the middleman, have you watch directly, and then either ad-free content filled with technical discussions inside of it of what's going on in the game, or you can include ads with it, similar to what you do with Hulu and stuff. But that's one reason why I've not really been that much into sports, is you have to pay out the ass just to be part of it. Give me some gumbo. I love gumbo. I mentioned okra, and everybody's like, gumbo, food. But yeah, I think the problem that we have with everybody wanting to pirate TV is more of an accessibility issue than it is that people want to just want to screw over these companies. They're getting a little bit too greedy, and you're starting to see the same problem. Does the NFL have infra for ad insertion? It would not be too hard for them to do. All you do is you could literally just have them stream, put the ad in the corner while it's playing, or when it's the game is stopping, play ads. I saw that for some Olympics coverage when I was streaming it and other things. I mean, there should be, they need to figure out how to make this more accessible, and they'd make more money. Because right now, people are pirating stuff because of the accessibility and cost issue. People were buying Netflix and all these other streaming services for a long time instead of pirating content, because it became easier to say, I'm going to give you a few bucks and I can watch all the content, than go onto Pirate Bay and such and download the torrents for the same thing and then have to build up your own infrastructure. I'm the same way with Crunchyroll. Years ago, I used to have to pirate a lot of the content to be able to get anime. In some cases, I still have to because of the accessibility issue. That's a whole other thing with anime. But anyway, and now that we have so many subscription services and broken programs on, like, you'll have this series on this channel over on this subscription service, and then part of it's on another one, and then you have to do all this, that people just get fed up and say, you know what, I'm done. Because everyone wanted to create their own thing. Like, before it used to be NBC, ABC, all of them would put their stuff on Netflix. NFL 100% has infra to slip a switch and play their own ads. Literally as easy as flipping a switch from AV1 to Stream 2. Yeah. It's not that hard to do ad insertion as people believe. I mean, what was it? Yesterday we were watching a video where a lady was talking about making her own IPTV TV channel to just automatically play content, and she was even talking about you could insert your own ads. This is old technology. You literally just have it there, and then you're going to a break, flip the button. Oh, like, look at the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl, like, people watch it for the ads. There's quite a few that, like, love the ads. They may not watch it specifically for the ads, but there are people out there that like the ads. So they know specifically when that's going to be happening. But of course, this is, in essence, a threat to the big conglomerate TV networks that already exist, like NBC, ABC, and all of them, because for years, we had to get rabbit ears or physical cable to be able to watch TV, and now all we need is internet to access a lot of that same infrastructure, that they're no longer as important, and they're not as great at making programming to make people want to watch their TV series on there. Because years ago, TV shows used to be like a cultural event where people would sit around the water cooler and chat about, what was on TV last night. Like, I don't know if many of you are old enough, but like Friends was this big thing. People would talk about what happened, on that episode of Friends, or Charmed, or what other TV thing, because they had a captive audience. But now with streaming, you can binge it whatever you want, and you can also focus on the kind of content you want specifically. So a lot of that culture has changed. Maybe infra is the wrong word for it, but there is still additional organization and planning needs for advertising. Yeah, but it's not that hard. A lot of it's just bureaucratic. Look, the NFL has advertising in place themselves. And if you don't believe me on that, look around at the stadiums. The next time you're at a sporting event, or you're looking at a sporting event, just pay attention to all the people or the companies that are paying to advertise. Whether it be on the scoreboard, whether it be on the stadium themselves, around the banners or the signs, or, they'll buy, a pavilion with the big name, with the logo there. Yeah. Hell, companies will buy entire stadiums. But, yeah. Moving on. Vibe coding is killing open source software, researchers argue. If the maintainer of small projects will give up, who will produce the next Linux? A new study from a team of researchers in Europe, vibe coding is killing open source projects and open source software, and it's happening faster than anyone predicted. Thanks to vibe coding, a colloquialism of the practice of quickly writing code with the assistance of an LLM, and a cost. Vibe coding relies on vast amounts of open source software, a trove of libraries, databases, and user knowledge. In a way, I can see that this is going to be an issue. People don't give back, but I would have to argue, in my case, if you look at my GitHub, you will see that vibe coding has allowed me to create and contribute more to open source software. I've had fixes in various pieces of software that I may not have had the time to dive into to figure out the bug fixes that I've actually contributed the fix for on GitHub and other places, or even build my own projects out. Now, I would also say that there has been a problem, like we talked about yesterday, where there are agentic AIs that are just overloading projects out there with a bunch of BS pull requests and stuff like that. And we had that agentic AI that flamed a developer because, they said that this is for human contribution and stuff like that. And then it wrote a hit piece on this developer. And then Ars Technica used AI themselves to use quotes that didn't even exist from that story. So, yeah, I do have to say that there's good and bad with this entire situation of vibe coding. Major AI firms like Anthropic and OpenAI can't continue to free ride on OSS or the whole system will collapse. Yeah, I definitely would say that, but I would say it's not so much Anthropic and OpenAI that are the culprits here, but so much the customers that are using the software and then not contributing back. That's where I say would be the bigger problem. Now, should Anthropic and OpenAI contribute back to open source themselves for the things that they built? Yes, and in some cases they have. maybe not as much as one would probably like, but that's a whole philosophical, ethical discussion that we're not touching on right now. But ultimately, it's up to the users that are doing the code. And there's a lot of developers out there that don't contribute to open source enough, that should. I think everyone that has the capability to should do open source volunteer work on the things that they are using, if they can, produce value. There's a lot of people out there that have tweaks that are custom to their own systems and all that they've not shared out that maybe other people could benefit from. But yeah. Okay, so we got another video from Brody Robertson. Bazite Linux got into some drama. Vampire shared this. Apparently, GOG is coming to Linux. Okay, this is about a 30-minute video. I do not know if we're going to watch the whole thing. Don't get me wrong, I like Brody, but sometimes he gets a little bit too much into commentary that I generally don't care about. Ironically, as you're watching me to give commentary on things that you may not generally care about my commentary either. I just burned myself, I know, but no.
We're in a very exciting time for gaming on Linux. The Steam Machine and Steam Frame are set to release.
Yes, it is.
Eventually. Who knows?
I think they said
Wine
Q2.
keeps getting better and better. WoW 64, which is a way to run 32-bit binaries on a 64-bit system, is now considered to be fully supported and
which is amazing. Which is amazing that you can run 16-bit applications, because that officially means that for retro gaming, Linux is the preferred choice over Windows, because there's now a lot of games that are a pain to play because they have 16-bit installers or they're 16-bit applications, even though technically with x86 they should be able to run it. But that's a whole other discussion.
Also, the Wayland support in Wine is getting better and better. Over at Nexus Mods, they are committing to mod manager support on SteamOS, and that's also going to mean on general Linux as well, which is...
Yep, and I've been playing with the Nexus Mod Manager, Vortex, on and off, because I did use Nexus Mod Manager for a while, for Oblivion and Skyrim and even Morrowind, and I think it's a great little thing to be able to, manage your add-ons, and you would be able to load them up and fix the different load orders and stuff like that, and I would like to have an easier time for me to mod a lot of my games than I used to, than I'm doing right now with Linux, but this is great to see that it's happening, because whatever they develop for SteamOS will eventually matriculate out into, I think that's the right word, the other open source projects inside of Linux as a whole, because it benefits the entire ecosystem.
Very nice to see. And GOG is looking for a Linux developer for their GOG Galaxy client.
Nice!
And more recently, we have a brighter
because you used to have to, well, you still do, you have to use Heroic Launcher to play Amazon, Epic, and GOG games. I've had to do that for Rocket League on this machine.
The announcement of OGC, the Open Gaming Collective. The OGC is a collaborative organization
I heard about this,
bringing together
in other forums.
in Linux gaming. Chimera OS, Nabara, Playtron. Playtron, if you don't know, is the crypto gaming thing. Fira Labs, PeachOS, Shadowblip, and Asus Linux. Along with Bazite.
Wait, Asus has a Linux? I did not know that.
Universal Blue, and more partners to be announced soon. The goal of the OGC is to centralize efforts around critical components like kernel patches, input tooling, and essential gaming packages such as GameScope, instead of each distro maintaining separate packages and fragmented hardware support. Improvements can now be shared across the entire ecosystem. In short, a win for one project becomes a win for everyone. If you care about your Linux distros and your gaming discussions, there's one notable missing distro here, CashOS, and we will get to that.
Oh, I heard about this. There's some, like, BS thing that they started doing.
Approach, meaning all patches shipped by the OGC
People have built an entire Proton version specifically to run gacha games, which develop for every platform but Linux. Really? What is gacha games? I hear that term. I'm not familiar with it.
Will at least be in review for eventual inclusion into the Linux kernel. This means better hardware compatibility, fewer duplicated efforts, and a more unified Linux gaming experience.
I'd like to see System 76 join this collective.
Now,
I think they'd
I
be
know
willing
this
to.
is good marketing material, but frankly, being an organization doesn't.
Switch to Fedora 43 uses Secure Boot support. I don't use Secure Boot. The whole idea around Secure Boot was this Microsoft BS thing. In my opinion, it doesn't work as well as they say. And the problem with Secure Boot is that, if I recall, everything you do has to be signed. And a lot of my own software that I make isn't signed.
Doesn't really.
Gacha games are the games where you open up packages or eggs to get items in game. Oh, okay. Typically story games, but use pulls to collect characters. Those pulls have a certain hit rate. Basically, Gooner gambling.
Matter to you as a user. They can do the exact same thing with like a coordinating Discord chat. Who it matters to is industry partners, because what this shows to game developers, to hardware manufacturers, to anyone who might be interested in supporting Linux as a platform is we don't have a bunch of disjointed projects. We have this organization, this probably going to become a foundation where all of these distros operate in, and then all share the same sort of work.
It would also be more like a trade association, so that way they can have collective bargaining on behalf of the industry to lobby for certain actions. So, don't stop killing games, that whole thing. They could collectively have an action to endorse that. And you actually saw people that were fighting against Stop Killing Games that were using their own trade associations as saying that it would harm, the gaming, even though don't agree with their belief on that. But that is how it could actually work. Microsoft just pushed out a secure boot keys, i.e. certificate. Yeah, and that doesn't mean anything for me. I have not needed secure boot. I have not cared for secure boot in many years. It's caused more headaches than it's solved. If I need to have software signed, I'll check the PGP.
So you don't just have to target Bazite or PikaOS or Fira Labs or Nabara. You can target the OGC distros. Along with the formation of the OGC, there are some changes happening to Bazite. Handheld Daemon HHD will receive no further updates and will be phased out in favor of Input Plumber. Now, the project itself is still going on, and we'll get to the developer of this project, but it'll receive no further updates within Bazite. The same input framework is being used by SteamOS, ChimeraOS, Nabara, Playtron GameOS, Manjaro Handheld Edition, and CashOS.
The reason why I switched to Fedora from Pop! OS, I had issues. I mean, it's fine if you have issues, but I'm just saying Secure Boot causes more issues than it solves. If you needed Secure Boot, disable in your BIOS, carry on your merry way. Look, it doesn't really solve all that much. That's all I'm saying. I mean, you use whatever distribution you want, but saying this Linux works better with Secure Boot, some Microsoft enforced BS that originally they tried to use to shut out, Linux being able to run on certain machines to begin with, is not the argument. The same thing as the whole trusted platform module BS.
Handheld Edition. Bazite will adopt the OGC kernel, ensuring continued support for features like Secure Boot, expanded controller support, steering wheel support, and more, all maintained collaboratively within the shared kernel project, and will be sharing the patches we've made to various...
Ironic when I just railed about Secure Boot. I don't know anyone that actually runs it with Secure Boot, unironically.
The OGC and attempt to upstream everything we can. Now, in a vacuum, this would just be a great thing, there'd be no drama, everything would be happy, everyone would be enjoying things. We don't live in a vacuum, we don't live in a world where there's no surrounding events. So, HHD, the handheld
You don't even bother encrypting your drives. So I do encrypt my drives. Now, the argument for secure boot is it could prevent some malware, but there's also like App Armor, there's SE Linux, there's so many other things that you could potentially use, but yeah.
daemon. This is directly related into CashOS not being involved in the organization. This project is by a developer known as Antheus.
Okay.
And back in December of last year, they were removed from the project as announced by Kyle. Hello everyone, we have received some troubling reports from the community about one of the maintainers of Bazite. After taking some time over the last few days, the Bazite team has made the decision to remove the maintainer due to repeated violations of our code of conduct. We are committed to maintaining a safe and inclusive environment for all contributors and take all reports of misconduct seriously. We appreciate everyone
So
in
what
our
did they
community,
do?
and we appreciate your patience during this transition. Now, you can take a read of some of the comments that led to the removal
Okay, I'm gonna have to like
during
read
this transition. Now, you can take a read of some
Things can get very hairy with hardware. This is very serious. And it's better to take some abuse from the people you affected than banning them willy-nilly. Oof. I retract my support of Bazite as a project until admin changes. Remove Antheus from staff and the community. Antheus made FOSS devs walk away and been a source dot. That is not cool. Like, okay, STFU, I did not break anything. I'm not going to sit there and take it from when I'm being verbally abused. Literally, Bazite wasn't on the version with the potential bug, and 7 TB is way, way, way high for that. What the bug is, you need to check your priorities. There is no reason to be verbally abusive or somewhat else to someone for a piece of software. Wow. Yeah.
the comments that led to the removal.
Merge and stable testing. Let me just merge your shame first. Squash, that fist is like jerking it, Troon style. Do I even want to look up what that means? Oh. Is that, you know, high-end, meticulously maintained, and often ruggedly beautiful design aesthetic of golf courses managed by Troon? I don't think that's what they meant by it. I'm curious what they meant by that. My fist is like jerking. From the context, that does not seem appropriate.
But basically, the TLDR...
Main announcement I want to post here so everyone can be aware. After a lengthy discussion and a unanimous vote by the development team, we have banned Antheus from the channel for repeated violations of rule number 1. Treat everyone with respect. Fair enough. That's the common rule even in my server. Don't be a dick! While I won't point to any specific examples, I will just state that this decision was not made lightly. This wasn't a personal decision made by anyone. Okay, yada, yada, yada. But, yeah, okay.
Is some people felt uncomfortable with...
Hey, they sponsored your intern, so you're doing God's work?
With him remaining within the project, and a few developers did actually step away following some of these events. So, along with that, there was the whole framework situation a couple of months back, and Bazite was involved in that, where they had like 3 degrees of separation from Omaki, which is run by DHH, and there was this like...
Oh yeah, DHH is a whole other controversial figure, which is why I don't even... I kind of just don't want to support Omarchi. Like, don't get me wrong, Omarchi seems really cool, but DHH himself...
growing pressure within the project to sort of make some clear separation between that and the Antheus stuff, even though it had been going on for a couple of years at that point, basically all boiled up around about the same time.
Damn, they let that on for a couple of years?
there was growing pressure to do something, and basically, no matter what Kyle did, it was gonna cause some drama.
It's like Temple OS, cool idea, but man, Terry was on something. Terry actually was mentally ill. The creator, he was legitimately mentally ill. If I'm not mistaken, he actually had schizophrenia. So, Terry, the maker of Temple OS, I can respect his work, and when looking through the lens of he was mentally ill, it's a very sad and unfortunate story. If you look at his life, it's a very unfortunate story. It's a cool idea, but part of his and he was brilliant, but part of what drove him to build that operating system in itself was due to his mental illness. It's become a meme today, but I can be more forgiving of Terry for the things he said, knowing he was not mentally in his right mind, than I can for a lot of people out there that choose to just be a dick. Because, and I say this as someone who has family that deals with mental illness. As many of you know, I've dealt with my father. I love my father, but I just can't stand my father because he's mentally ill, and my family has been enabling his mental illness for a while instead of getting him the support that he needs, and he's gone off the rails. And he's done things that were definitely not right. Nothing to the level of Jeffrey Epstein or anything like that, but he has, you know, stolen money from business partners and things like that. Needless to say, I can be more understanding of why he's going through that. Not that I agree with what he's going through, but you have to understand, America does not have the mental health system that we should. We do not have that support in place. Our healthcare system is in shambles to begin with. Mental health is even worse so. So, that's where I will go on that.
Drama. If he didn't remove Antheus, there would have been drama.
Right.
If he did remove Antheus, there would have been drama.
Damned if you do, damned if you don't.
There was no winning in this
Right.
situation. And the reason that any of this matters is Antheus wasn't just a random developer. HHD and Antheus's work in the project was actually really important work. He was a core developer for a really long time now, and he's spoken alongside Kyle at FOSDEM in prior years, and there was going to be another talk at the most recent FOSDEM before everything kind of happened. Even though most of this happened back in December, the reason why this all came back around is because of a company known as GPD. You might know them for their
Isn't that the mobile pocket computer? Yeah, the pocket computer.
computers,
Okay,
the
yeah.
GPD
I cut 'em
Win,
up with that.
things like that. So back in September, GPD did nothing wrong, by the way. Just
I was
so
gonna
clear,
say,
they did absolutely
what
nothing
did they
wrong in
do?
this situation. Back in September, they announced support for running Bazzite Linux. And roughly 2 weeks ago on the official subreddit, the official adaptation of GPD Win 5 is happening. If you've got any issue on Bazzite, please join our Discord to consult with Bazzite representatives. Basically, there was what they assumed was an official partnership. This was posted by a GPD rep. From all things they could see, they had an official partnership with the project, and there was a collaboration. All things were good. And later on, Kyle, the guy actually in charge of the project, posted this. Correction regarding GPD Win 5 support for Bazzite. There has been an update, but first we'll look at the original text. Recently, GPD made a statement that an official adaptation of Bazzite is happening for the GPD Win 5, and that we received hardware from them. I want to make clear that not only have we not received any hardware from them, we have no recent contact with GPD of any kind. A GPD representative appears to be directing users to a Discord other than our own for support as well.
Oh,
The Bazzite
God.
team will never ask you to go to a Discord other than our own for support. Please exercise caution. Whatever they're working on is entirely unofficial and out of our control, and will not be supported by us in any way. We ask GPD to cease using the Bazite name, logos, and other intellectual property until this matter is resolved. I like Kyle, but this might have been the worst possible way you could ever handle this situation. This should have been a private email.
I
This should have
agree.
been, hey, what do you mean you sent us hardware? We don't know anything about this. Are you sure you didn't get scammed?
Yeah,
by-"
this is a whole thing where you should have back-channeled it. Not everything needs to be aired out publicly. There's a lot of times when things happen, and a lot of people have forgotten this nuance. I mean, like, there's a lot of creators out there that would rather create drama than create actual solutions, where maybe you should go directly to the people that it's involving if, you know, you have a connection or, you know, something like that, and figure out, hey, what's going on with the situation? Am I understanding? Maybe there's a miscommunication. Maybe we've got our wires crossed. I mean, it's happened with me. I'm sure a lot of you have had it happen with you, with a lot of friends, where you've, you know, maybe had a friend publicize something that should have been handled in a private discussion. And this is definitely under that case there. I've had issues with some vendors that, you know, sponsored content or other things like that, that I'm like, hey, what's going on with this? Or vendors that have reached out to me because, you know, there may have been some issue. Like, I've been on stream and they've, you know, made comments. I made some comments about software, and they've reached out to me privately and be like, so what's going on with this that you saw? And I don't need to blow them up. You know, but some of them want that feedback openly. But this is not the way I would have handled this situation, and it looks worse on Bazite than it does GPD in my eyes.
By someone claiming to be from Bazite, and try to work out why GPD made that announcement, because structuring it like this kind of frames them as being scammers.
Yeah.
I understand there being an issue and you wanted to resolve it as quickly as possible, but I hope in future situations, this is not how Kyle handles it. This is just doing reputational damage to both Bazite and to GPD.
Yeah.
Because when it was realized that they actually weren't in the wrong, now it makes you look bad.
Yep.
So following this, GPD put out their own statement. First of all, we are just a hardware manufacturer focused on the niche market. We have no interest in getting involved in any political disputes. All we want is to build good devices so users can enjoy using them. Whether they're Windows users or Linux users, that's always been our goal.
Fair enough.
Starting with the Win 4, we began working with Bazite. Back then, Antheus was the one who reached out to GPD, and that collaboration continued with the Win Max 2 as well. So when it came to the Win 5, following our usual practice, we planned to send a device to Bazite for system adaptation and optimization. And Antheus, by all accounts, is a representative of the project. He is someone who is a very active developer in the project, everything lined up. Nothing to them was out of place. They were interacting with someone from the Bazite project. At that point...
So this sounds like, to me, this was an issue with Antheus not being clear with the Bazite team, because if the Bazite team was not aware that they had this communication, yeah, I can see how that really makes Bazite look bad and makes GPD look bad when... so far, it looks like GPD has done nothing wrong in their perspective. They were dealing with someone they thought was part of the Bazite project, happened to be someone who may have been having a little bit of a problem with the project, and then it spirals out of control from here.
Antheus mentioned to me that Bazite was having some internal management issues. I didn't think much of it. Management problems don't really affect system adaptation work.
Fair
so we
enough.
decided to continue the operation as usual. I also casually posted about the collaboration with Bazite on X.
I also want to point out this was probably ChatGPT written. They clean it up because the M dashes.
Also on Reddit. And then just 3 days later, the Bazite announcement you saw came out, where it was basically saying, effectively, you're lying, what are you doing? From day one, all of GPD's collaboration with the partners have been entirely voluntary and unpaid, including reviews as well as software and operating system development. So I don't know whether there are any commercial disputes involved or something else going on behind the scenes.
And see,
GPD
this could have all been handled
in
in the
matter.
back channels behind the
Obviously,
scene.
it's GPD saying the GPD is innocent, but yeah, they actually are. Because from their side, they interacted with a representative of Bazite,
Yep.
who was in the Bazite project, who was a core part of Bazite, who had done, talks with the person that runs Bazite. Everything seemed above board.
As
They
a writer,
had no idea.
M-dashes being used as an AI indicator makes me sad. No, I understand it. I've used them in the past myself. It's unfortunate because the prevalence of them coming into the common vernacular, because I used to do, where I was supposed to be doing M-dashes, commas. That way. I wasn't really taught formally when and where you should be using M-dashes. As much as I should have. Again, this goes back to American education really sucks. But you can tell when something is written by AI. But yeah.
Vedanthius hadn't communicated this with the rest of the Bazite team. From their position, they announced something official. This isn't even like a language barrier thing. They just didn't do anything wrong. Following...
And my opinion on this whole situation, Anthius not being transparent with the rest of the Bazite team that he was doing this and that he had these connections, looks bad on him. More so than anything else. So... But yeah.
This happening, Anthius made his own statement. Bazite...
Oh, God! Oh! What's gonna happen here?
Autumn. I'm not going to read the entire thing here, but I will leave it linked down below. I want to be clear. Everyone involved in this, incredibly biased.
Yep.
Bazite, biased in favor of Bazite. Anthius, biased in favor of Anthius. Me, I like Kyle. I've spoken to Kyle. I think Bazite's a cool project. So read what is here yourself. Everything will be linked down below. Anthius...
This is a situation of kids. You're both just awful. This is what it feels like to me. Like, there were issues, I think, on all sides. GPD not being one of the parties here that I think is at fault here in any way, shape, or form. I think they were a victim of this miscommunication, mismanagement, communication breakdown, whatever you want to call it. But yeah, okay.
This created the project Handheld Daemon HHD, which aimed to provide a vendor software replacement for Legion Go for Linux. We made great progress, and around December 2023, the Legion Go worked properly. Kyle saw that and included Handheld Daemon on Bazite. On January 2024, ROG Ally support was added, then you had various other devices added, and now it's got actually really good support. In parallel, however, this caused some animosity between me and some other open source developers, specifically Derek J. Clark, who was part of the space since 2022, who, he says, felt he had a seniority and privileges given to him due to being a Chimeros maintainer and admin of a private Discord server with other open source handheld developers, and that meant he was entitled to create a competitor to Handheld Daemon. Now, obviously, Anthius is a little bit salty by the fact that another project came along and started doing what he was doing.
This is open source. That happens all the frickin' time. You cannot be upset that somebody else saw what you're doing and wanted to take a different approach with things. That's open source. That happens all the time. This is like in the same vein as the GNOME Foundation getting butthurt about System 76 wanting to go more or less fork the GNOME project into Cosmic. Now, they didn't really fork it. It's a whole rewrite and everything like that. But the point being, it's going to happen. That's open source. That's the beauty of it. Oh, I want to do something different. Well, I'm going to fork your code and do something different or rebuild it from scratch. Like, look, I've built my own bots on my own GitHub solely because I didn't like the way other things were done, so I open sourced my project. And somebody may look at my code and be like, I like what you did there, but I want to do this differently. And they can, do a pull request to contribute it more. They can fork it to make it better, do whatever they want. Be that as it may, that's open source. It's freedom.
That's open source for you. So even though Handheld Damon was featured complete by March 2024, Derek started Input Plumber around that time and used his means to silence me plus things. The writing in this is horrendous, by the way. I thought I was bad at writing. This included smearing me to other industry professionals,
should have run that through ChatGPT
server, and convincing other hobby distributions to use his software through ideological means, e.g., we use more kernel drivers. I don't know if that's an ideological mean, and I don't know how much of this is true.
I don't know how much of that's true. That's not an ideological thing. That's a more technical philosophy thing. I mean, that's not ideological. That's more technical.
Right? I don't know how much of this is him butting heads with developers in these spaces, and how much of this is developers talking shit about him and starting things that are not true. Because he did butt heads with a lot of people. That is an absolute fact. I don't think we're ever going to know, especially with some of it happening in private servers. I thought to myself, well, this is unfortunate, but at the same time, my expert opinion was the architecture of Input Plumber was fundamentally flawed, so it would never work. I told him this personally, and he interpreted it as insulting him. I would love to know exactly how he phrased it, because I have a feeling that he probably isn't great at communication. Whether he meant it as insulting or not...
Wait, was that the architecture of Input Plumber was fundamentally flawed, so it would never work properly? I told him personally, and he interpreted it as insulting him.
There is a lot of people out there in the FOSS world who really don't know how to talk to people.
It's because a lot of them are on the spectrum. But yeah, I've made that comment many times. There's a lot of great developers out there that just suck at communication, need to understand PR. Like, I've talked about how Graphene OS, great project, great operating system, I recommend it. But I've also said the main developers behind it are kind of toxic, and I've gotten even into it with them on Mastodon merely by virtue of, look, I'm me. I review hardware and software and all this stuff all the time as part of my content, and I happened to do the ultimate sin of mentioning the Librem phone in a post that also mentioned graphene, because I was waiting for the Librem phone, and he went on this diatribe, and I'm like, do you understand that there's different approaches to this? That maybe not everyone has access to Google hardware, so I'm just exploring the various options out there. And, like, they went into this whole diatribe when it's like, you should have just, like, let things be. There was no reason to get down this. But, yeah, that goes into something else I've said for a while.
I never made any public statements about Derek or Input Plumber, as I wanted to keep things professional. Distributions are bound to make the best choice for their users, so if they do not do that, that is their loss. So I focused my efforts on Bazzite, integrating Handheld Daemon closely with Bazzite, its kernel, and a GameScope fork tightly, which I maintained. Bazzite obviously gained a lot of popularity, a 120x increase from when I joined. Now, I don't think, obviously, he is entirely responsible for that.
Yeah, I don't think so.
But from what I can see, Handheld Daemon is a really good project. During this, he also cleaned up a lot of maintenance burden around Bazzite, removing the ASUS and Surface images as they didn't need to exist anymore, cleaning the kernel to prepare it for a real secure boot, and adding version locks to NVIDIA drivers, because NVIDIA drivers are NVIDIA drivers.
Yeah.
As part of this, the build matrix of Bazzite went from a 70% success rate to a more than 95% success rate. Again, I don't know how much of this is his work and how much of this is just generally improved procedures.
I'd say
I
generally
also paved a
improved
path for
procedures
Bazite to have
myself,
sustainable funding, doing the research
that could
and
just be
creating
my
open
opinion.
collective space where a lot of you donate. Now this is the part where he starts to talk about Kyle. Over the years, me and, well, normal Bazite users started to have issues with Kyle. You see, while Kyle is a great maintainer, he seems to treat Bazite as his personal computer OS and the Discord server as his personal hangout. But when you're relying on your computer to play games, do work, and be productive, you want stability and reliability. He tends to push changes before they are fully ready so he can play with them. Examples are day one Fedora releases, regardless of whether it works properly. Although we got pretty good at that. Yanking X11 in early 2024, as Chris Titus, first big YouTuber, was he the first one to look at it? Maybe he was reviewing Bazite,
I think
breaking
I heard
a
of
lot
it a
his
little bit
software
before, but
and
yeah.
causing him to rage quit the review, introducing Bazaar too early while it had memory issues and crashed on low-end hardware, switching to IWD the day Phronix announced there are rumors Intel stopped maintenance, and breaking enterprise Wi-Fi and Wi-Fi on a lot of Intel devices.
Oh, I didn't
Using
know about
Dixis
this.
I think is how you say that. As the default terminal, this is like the better GNOME terminal, even though console is fine. Bundling the Steam client plus problematic codecs so Bazite cannot ship on hardware, and putting an assortment of unnecessary packages that we have to maintain, 8 GNOME extensions. There are more, but you get the idea. None of this is inherently wrong. A lot of this
seems to make sense from a licensing standpoint. But yeah, I think a lot of these, if true, I can see where he's coming at that, but it's like there's various things going on. But yeah, the bundling the Steam client plus problematic codecs, I've always side-eyed that, because I think what they should have done is similar to what Ubuntu and a lot of other Linux distributions do, which is that they don't pre-install the software, but they will let you install the software with a checkbox. So, like, you can install non-free codecs and drivers with a checkbox, and then it will just check your system to see if it needs any of that, and then install those things, but it's not shipped in that image. In the same way, like, Pop! OS doesn't have Steam pre-installed, I have to install it. Even though it is an improved convenience factor, it is a licensing issue. You understand what I'm saying? And a lot of these other issues definitely can be problematic for stability and reliability on an operating system. You do not want things changing so much. That's why we have long-term support releases, and that's also why I generally don't use Fedora for my production things, because their release cycle is a little bit aggressive. Yes, it's more on the latest edge, most recent software. Not bleeding edge, but leading edge, shall we say. But yeah, this is a problem.
This is just general maintenance.
Maybe just having a test fork or something could resolve this.
Maintenance drama, sort of disagreements about how quickly do you merge things, the kind of software you include. This is the kind of stuff that happens on basically any distro that has out-of-the-box additions, right? On something like Arch, where it's pretty clean, it doesn't really matter. If you're something like a Fedora workstation, a Fedora KDE, you're going to have the same sort of arguments. Meanwhile, he seems to treat Discord as his personal hangout, forming parasocial relationships with some users and banning people for disagreeing with him. Look, I'm going to be entirely honest. Basically, everyone who runs a Discord server does this. Like, unless you have...
I'm not even going to argue with that point.
Clear separation between the person who runs it and, like, the management team, every Discord server does this. Pointing out issues or just bans as favors. Now, you might think this is right-wingers or similar. You might think this is right-wingers or similar if you're a certain,
Yeah, I don't think this is a political thing. You know, when, like, you're injecting politics, not software and development politics, but actual, like, politics into this. I don't know why you would do that, and it's like, this kind of gives you insight into their mindset when people are like this. Like, I have friends all across the different political spectrums. I don't understand this thinking from a lot of people, but anyway.
So-called tech journalists? Not really. Those are in the single digits. Most bans are due to arguments with people that try to use a single wine prefix, say containers cannot replace their workflow, complain about unorthodox defaults, or mention something vaguely related to piracy. Now, this one...
Okay, that one is a Discord violation. Even in my own Discord, I will not help you to pirate anything. That is, you are on your own. Okay? That is, we cannot do that. That is crossing legal lines. One could argue ethical lines, but it's definitely on legal lines.
I will 100% agree with Kyle on. You gotta get rid of those people, right?
Yep.
That is a legal liability if you want to have hardware partners. Regarding the single wine prefix...
Not just hardware partners. If you want to have a server not potentially get banned or cause legal issues even of itself. Even our torrent doesn't tell you how, just theoretical what-ifs. Yeah. That's how it is. That's how it should be. You're not supposed to tell people one, step-by-step how to actually pirate things. It's like, one could go to X. Like, me mentioning the Pirate Bay, which is a very popular torrent site. I know there are other ones out there. I just use it because it's the most well-known, ubiquitous site that, everyone can understand and associate with. Doesn't mean I'm telling you how to pirate. I'm just saying that that it exists. You figuring out how to use that, that's on your own.
This isn't Discord, but is the same thing on GitHub from Kyle. Please remove Bazite from the supported section of your README. This is on non-Steam launchers on the Steam Deck. I would like Bazite removed from your README. We do not support running multiple launchers or multiple games from one launcher under a single prefix, and as such, we do not want to deal with support requests from your project. We've already had to explain this to numerous people who've come to us for game support and left disappointed because they had to remove their entire library before we'd offer any support. I know this is annoying and I get why people want to do so, but this method of managing wine is very prone to breakage. If you can, you...
PvP is a great filter for the people who know, and the LARPers are uninformed newbies. Oh, you mean in the aspect of if you know, you know? Like, if you know about the Pirate Bay and the glory of the Pirate Bay and how it actually ran on you could fit the whole thing on a flash drive and it was mostly, text-based and it was easy to redeploy like that? Yeah. Okay. Now, in this aspect over here, I don't know if I agree with Kyle. Okay, so, because people install a piece of software doesn't mean you can remove support. In the same way that I will say some of my software supports different operating systems, you have to understand as a user that the maintainer of the project, of the operating system, is not responsible for the underlying software. For example, if I have an issue with Steam on Pop! OS, you go to Valve for support, not System 76, unless there is an underlying issue specifically to System 76's configuration or tweak that happened because of a bug or a regression. But that is an edge case. This is a joke, not advice. Yeah.
You are much better off having every single thing in a separate prefix to make sure you don't have any overlap of dependencies and things trying to uninstall other things. It's just a big mess. You're better off not doing it.
Right.
Now, could Kyle maybe be friendlier with how he phrases it? Yes.
Yes.
Absolutely. But he is right here. The handling of this also does not abide
Internet
to modern
Archive
CRC
lets you watch old
standards,
TV shows.
causing animosity and pent-up anger in users.
We've
which
done that
some
with the
lash
broken.org.
out in frustration in DMs, which are...
Hold on, what do you say?
But he is right here. The handling of this also does not abide to modern COC standards, causing animosity and pent-up anger in users, where some lash out in frustration in DMs, which are then used as evidence to ban them permanently. It was a common occurrence for me to wake up in the morning and see Reddit mod messages by disgruntled users. During my tenure as moderator on Reddit and Discord, I banned around 3 spammy accounts on Reddit total. After a while, I started to...
Wow! A Reddit moderator who doesn't get full of themselves? That's a rarity. This is like a unicorn moment.
Get frustrated with this behavior. I told Kyle to stop. Again, I'm curious how he said it. And only some of the messages were public.
That's amazing.
This caused certain problematic members of our community to misinterpret what I was saying and try to target me and cancel me online, to which Derek also joined in by making public statements, as they thought the status quo would stop and they seemed to rely on our community for psychological support. Again, welcome to Discord. He claims Kyle used this cancelling as a fulcrum, and I assume thought, Bazite is at a good place, I do not need people questioning my breaking changes, I will kick Antheus, then adopt the upstream integrations to e.g. align with Valve. This way I release some political pressure, part of which was framework, a relationship Kyle handles, and gain full control of Bazite. He basically already had full control of Bazite, so I'm not really sure what that part means.
Yeah, I'm confused by that too.
However, I do think the timing around the framework stuff, the fact that this was not new behavior, right? Like, some of the messages that were linked to as Antheus being bad and should be removed, those were from a year earlier. I do think that some of the pressure did come from the framework situation. He is now trying to create an open gaming collective to offload responsibility about hardware maintenance to others, inviting anyone that would join to do so. I don't know how long this has been a work in progress for, so I can't really say. Would I be surprised if it happened after that point? Because that did happen back in December. No. Do I think it's necessarily directly tied to this happening? Again, it's hard to say. Maybe some amount of it.
There's a lot of context
there is a lot of value to hardware partners in having a, like, shared group of distros.
Oh, I agree with that.
An established process, he abused his credentials access to Bazite infrastructure and a first mover click advantage to remove me. He then blocked me and cancelled our upcoming talk in Fostum and wiped all mention of me from Bazite's website. Noel was also complicit with it, sending me a nice thanks for the effort message and telling me they would reduce my credentials first. To that I said no. I am an equal or I am out. After 2 years, I am entitled to that. And whether or not you think Antheus should have been banned or not, I do completely understand where he's coming from with that.
Yeah, I can understand that. He doesn't want to be in a
situation where it's like, oh, well, I'm a core part of this OS, but, like, I'm not really involved in it. I'm, like, in this weird secondary position. I get why he's like, okay, if you're not going to have me involved,
you got to give credit where credit is due.
As to why this postmortem is only coming now, well, I want to give Kyle and, well, me some time to reflect, perhaps reconsider his actions. But alas, it seems that is not the case. Usually things are best handled in private, so this is somewhat of a last resort. I do agree with this.
Yeah.
I think a lot of what
I do agree with that too.
Basically happened because things were being ironed out in public. The GPD situation never had to happen publicly. That should have been a private email chain. As for the...
Yeah, this is why I tell people, like, you don't need to air all of your dirty laundry out in public. You have an issue, like, there's a lot of creators out there that don't need to have drama with other creators. If you are friends with them, you can have back channel discussions. I've had issues with creators. I'm human. And like, by issues, I mean, like, friends have disagreements and things like that all the time. And we will have a discussion in the back channel. And I won't normally air that dirty laundry, because not everyone needs to be privy to it. Now, there is a case where a few moderators might be aware of it, but that's merely so that they understand the context of how I have a relationship with certain creators and, you know, don't want to put too much of a spotlight or cause too much drama or, you know, whatever, just because there's, you know, this little... whatever is happening. I think there's enough, you know, drama YouTubers and content creators out there that I don't need to be another one, okay? If you want that, go find the Springer Show, okay?
GPD situation. In November,
What are back channels? I don't use those. Funny.
I was in talks with GPD about adding proper GPD Win5 support in Bazite. This is before being banned. In January, this is after being banned, I talked again with GPD, explaining to them some of what I had here with uncertainty about Bazite's future. At this point, he should not have been talking more with GPD as a representative of
I
Bazite.
agree.
He was not in the project anymore. Also, he'd never...
At that point, he should have at least said, hey, I'm not really affiliated with this project anymore. I'm sticking to this thing over here. And maybe, added to their, hey, if you do want to keep in contact with the project, these are points of contact that you can, move forward with. So I think that was not good on Antheus's approach. But yeah.
communicated this to the project, so...
I think a lot of the problems with open source really has to do with they don't really understand PR and they haven't had to manage teams professionally and even deal with executives and stakeholders and different things. So they don't know how to really deal with people.
The project had no idea this was being worked on, so he definitely shouldn't have been doing this.
Right.
We agreed that if integration could be finished, this would be best for the users that bought devices on that promise. I understand why he's doing that. He should never have been doing this without informing the project, though. The only integration that is left as far as Bazite is concerned is handheld daemon, and I'm still the person responsible for that, so I'll slowly do it over the next few weeks. It is very unfortunate Kyle is targeting a company for proudly announcing support for Bazite Linux. Now, I don't think Kyle handled it correctly, but this is a very dishonest way of doing it.
Yeah.
You were trying to create a collaboration without ever informing the project. They had no idea that this was going on. Here, I apologize on behalf of Kyle. Credential abuse / mishandling does not legally give Kyle the ability to trademark Bazite or take this kind of decision. In fact, it would be hard to trademark Bazite now, as it is contaminated through my involvement, a lot of which is public and unretractable, and poor handling thereafter. This legal murkiness, pre-existing to an extent, is part of the reason I'll be focusing my efforts elsewhere. The Bazite mark can only be used non-commercially from now on, and not sold. Moving forward, otherwise we will need to have a follow-up discussion. Everything I've read, everything I've been told, this is basically nonsense. I don't know why he's, framing it like this. Yeah, this doesn't appear to be true.
Yeah, this is something you need to actually consult with legal counsel to have a real answer about. Yeah.
True at all. I've been talking about it through the video. Let's talk now about CashOS.
Okay.
Open Gaming Collective formed to push Linux gaming even further. Will CashOS join? This is a comment from Peter Jung, who is the founder of CashOS. We've thought about this, but we've opted out, since we do not see all too much benefit from our side. Handheld stuff is not our major focus. They do have a handheld version, but it's not their core focus.
Right.
Also, we had some concerns that this could get a bureaucratic loophole.
Burrocractic. You couldn't even have looked up how to spell check that.
Which seemed to be more or less true so far. Additionally to us, this initiative looked like an emergency rush thing so that Bazite finds new kernel main...
Good God! Spell check, my dude! Grammar! Additionally to all, this initiative locked like an emergency rushed thing. Your post seems like a rushed thing.
Maintainers and other technical stuff after kicking the maintainer, which basically made all the integration work for them. We neither want to be associated with Playtron 2, there are more reasons, but I'll keep them out of the public. Again, Playtron is a crypto gaming platform. There could theoretically be a benefit.
When they say crypto gaming platform, do they mean cryptocurrency? Man doesn't even know to right click for autofix, yeah.
In terms of specific patches for handheld devices, Anthis did a really...
And look, I'm guilty of not knowing how to spell bureaucratic as well, and I have to look it up almost every time I have to type it in. I'm guilty.
A good job in creating and finding the proper patches, but since the person is not in Baza anymore, and the rest of them seem to not have the experience, we've been working together with Chimera OS and ASUS Linux for more than a year. Much testing and integration from Input Plumber came from CashOS Handheld Edition 2. I don't think for that a collective with strings attached is needed. Basically, they can take things that are improved upon from the collective. They don't need to be a part of it, right? As I was saying before.
That's a fair statement.
For the individual distros, this could have just been a Discord chat and it would have achieved the same things.
Right.
The reason why it exists isn't for the users, it's for the companies that want to support these platforms.
Right.
Someone asked, hey, maybe consider offering Arceus a job on the handheld edition. Peter said, could be a great technical enhancement, but we keep us away from jumping into drama. Understandably, also, they're not using Handheld Daemon. They are using Input Plumber, but they just don't want to be involved. And I mean, it's been known for more than a year and a half, and then acting surprised and not being prepared when a main person gets kicked out is kind of weird. And we have one final statement from Bazite, upholding our values.
Oh, God!
Update on GPD. 1. GPD is not at fault.
Okay, at least they acknowledge that.
We want to clarify that GPD is not at fault for any misrepresentation of Bazite support. They were unfortunately misled by communications from the former member.
Fair enough.
At the time, they were a member. Yeah. Team changes. The former member was removed from the team for several code of conduct violations over the past few years. This is why I feel like the timing is weird. Again, it wasn't a surprise that Arceus acted the way Arceus did.
What a wonderful
if the
thing
code of
we
conduct
have
actually
optimized
mattered,
software.
he would have been removed.
If only
like
it realizes
a year
I
and a half
text
ago.
in Canadian, not American.
But the pressure was there, and it was a good way to release some of it. By an overwhelming majority vote by the Universal Blue members, the decision was made to remove them from the project. This took place back in December. Official communication channels. All ongoing communication with vendors or device manufacturers should be done through our official press@BaziteGG email. No Bazite maintainers will contact you for any project communications through personal email addresses. This will validate that you are speaking with a current member.
That should have been done early on.
The way he was doing it was really stupid. The fact that he was trying to set up a project outside of official channels and didn't tell the project about it,
yeah.
That was going to lead to a disaster.
Yeah.
Moving forward with...
I'm curious if that email existed beforehand, but this is why I always tell people, whenever you start making a project that you intend to have some infrastructure around a company or that, you need to think about scalability. You need to think in the mindset of what happens if this person leaves, wins the lottery, gets hit by a bus, whatever like that. That's why I shriek at a lot of small businesses that are like, no, I'll just use a free Gmail. No, you get a proper email, you set up alias emails or, shared mailboxes. That way people come and go and you can just make sure you have business continuity. But yeah.
GPD. We would like to turn this into a positive outcome for all parties involved. We'd like to help GPD expand Linux support beyond Bazite for future devices. We also ask that you refer any questions you have about Bazite support on GPD devices to this post. We are truly thankful to our community for all of their support through the years for Bazite. We are excited for the future. So at least at the end of the day, the GPD users aren't losing out on anything. There appears to be still some sort of collaborative effort going on here. Which, hey, at least something good came out of this. Frankly, a lot of this situation never had to have happened. Firstly,
I agree.
If you're going to have a code of conduct, actually use the code of conduct, right?
Right.
If you're going to just have it there because it looks good to have a code of conduct and then don't actually enforce it, right? Just don't, right? Just delete it. Just delete it or use it. That's simple as that. Secondly, the GPD situation should have been handled through private communication. There shouldn't have been a message posted publicly before you knew why GPD said what they were doing. And thirdly, if you're going to have a collaboration, make sure other people in the project are actually aware of the collaboration.
Right.
Because that's going to end in disaster if you don't. So, hopefully, everything going forward ends up going smoothly. I don't want anything bad to happen to Bazite. There is a lot of users on Bazite who really rely on it. And yeah, I guess let me know your thoughts down below. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of that was unnecessary drama that didn't need to exist, but yeah. Alright, I think maybe we have time for... Okay. That's a little bit long of a video. We can skip down, and I can remember that video next time. Breakthrough in computing. Cortical Lab CL1 is the first living biocomputer and costs almost the same as Apple's best failure. You can interact with real neurons? Priced at $35K. Well, this is interesting. I mean... computers built with human brain cells. Interesting. Yeah, I'm pretty sure Cold Fusion was going to comment on that as well. I just don't feel like going through a 20-minute video right now, especially with commentary and stuff. But yeah, I think I'll continue off there next time for next stream. But this is really interesting that we actually have biological computing, because I remember when people were talking about biological computing many, many years ago, saying that if we could harness the power of the cell, we could store so much data, we could process things so much faster, because we're basically just trying to replicate how human neurons can learn and grow with GAI, which is still this theoretical thing, but yeah. Anyway, yeah, this is kind of interesting. If biocomputing gets efficient, though, Matrix IRL, yeah, we're gonna turn into, memory for them. Did you know the original concept for the Matrix was not that we would be batteries for the computers, but we would be memory for the computers? But apparently, because computers were so new at the time, it was going to be a hard concept for people to grasp that they turned it into batteries. And I'm like, that actually makes more sense than the battery argument. But be that as it may. Anyway, it is getting a little late over here, so I think I'm going to call it a night right now. Thank you all for joining me. If you haven't already, make sure to follow me on all of my socials. The links are in the bio for all of my socials. You know, we got the Twitch, the Kick, the YouTube, the TikToks, the Blue Skies, the Mastodons. And then, of course, don't forget to join the Discord and the Matrix server if you're looking for an alternative to Discord. We do have the Matrix server. That's long existed. I've always planned for the enshittification of Discord. That is my Discord. I host that. So, thank you all for joining me. I will be back on stream Wednesday. I may be on stream again tomorrow, but Wednesday is the next scheduled day for sure. We'll see, because I have to catch up with a bunch of content, but I'll probably be streaming a lot more also in the following week, because there's going to be about a week between old job and new job. I'm still waiting for HR to tell me about first day stuff and everything, but yeah. Anyway, thank you all for joining. Stick around for the raid if you're over on Twitch. Otherwise, see you all Wednesday, maybe tomorrow, and definitely on the Discord and Matrix servers. Have a good night.